Chapter 367 Chapter 367 Robbing a Martial Emperor 1. Chapter 367 Robbing a Martial Emperor 1. Saint Artifact, I like it. Old Man Mingsong was shocked when he saw the saint weapon in Li Lingtian's hand. Greed was written all over his face as he was only holding a celestial weapon. If he could get his hands on this peerless saint weapon, his strength would soar by a large margin. He would be able to kill a third heaven martial emperor powerhouse by surprise. The young man in front of him was only a supreme realm expert. Although his strength was not bad and he had the help of a demonic beast, he was a dignified martial emperor. As long as he was careful, he could eliminate him. The saint weapon was not even his. I can only be shameless to you. Who the F***ck doesn't like saint weapons? Don't tell me you're the only mother***er who doesn't like holy artifacts. Li Lingtian's face immediately revealed a look of disdain. He was still greedy for the holy weapon in his hand at this point in time. What a piece of trash. With that said, his sword will surged and the air between heaven and earth shattered continuously. Sword howl, heaven and earth. Li Lingtian looked at the Tianyu sword with a serious gaze before he swung it out casually. There was no pattern to it, as if it was a casual move without any form of movement. Countless powerhouses in the sky were puzzled by Li Lingtian's casual attack. Such an attack was not a move at all. Even if he used a saint weapon without the coordination of a skill, he could still unleash powerful power. If he wanted to deal with a martial monarch realm expert like this, wasn't he courting death? However, such a casual wave of his hand caused the martial emperor, Old Man Song, to become terrified as if he had seen a ghost. This was because this attack was like the might of heaven, and it had an unstoppable trajectory. Force, sword force. Sword force, it's actually sword force. Old Man Mingsong and the other supreme martial honors were shocked when they saw Li Lingtian's light strike. They did not expect the young man to have mastered force, and it was a sharp sword force. He had mastered the force and the saint weapon. When the sword force and the saint weapon combined, he was no longer a simple martial honor. He was a terrifying super expert. Sword force. Sword force. Could it be that his Li Lingtian? Eliminate Li Lingtian from the Dishi family. Li Lingtian is the only one who has mastered the sword force. Why is he here? It really is a sword aura. That's right. This person is Li Lingtian. Countless powerhouses were shocked. While they were shocked, Li Lingtian's expression remained calm as he looked at Old Man Mingsong with an emotionless expression. However, Old Man Mingsong's expression kept changing. Under the attack of the sword aura, its speed was so fast that it caught people off guard. It was already impossible to use an attack. Even a martial emperor powerhouse would not have the time to use his attacks to block it. The only thing he could do was to use his defense to take it head-on. The fall of the cloud river, the heavens and the earth. Seeing such a sword aura, Old Man Mingsong could only admit that he was unlucky. If he wanted to dodge, that would be something a fool would do. This was because in the face of aura one could not dodge. The true essence in his entire body reversed, and he cast the strongest forbidden technique of his martial emperor. Instantly, strange ripples appeared around Old Man Mingsong, and the area within 10 meters became his world. The truth of heaven and earth. There was another wave of exclamations. Countless powerhouses had seen through the truth of heaven and earth used by the martial emperor powerhouse. In front of Sure, only the truth of heaven and earth could compete. He did not expect a martial honor to force a martial emperor to use the defense of the truth of the world. Even if a martial honor failed, it was still an honor. After all, he forced a martial emperor to use the truth of the world. Hiss. Rumble. The sound of a rag being torn apart rang out. The sword ray streaked across the air like lightning and landed on Old Man Mingsong's defense without any trace. Following that, Old Man Mingsong's defense trembled and then exploded, but the sword light was also neutralized. Hush! Old Man Mingsong heaved a sigh of relief. He was extremely shocked. His defense, which was like the truth of heaven and earth, had been broken just like that. The other party was only a supreme realm expert. If his cultivation was a little higher, he would be dead for sure. The power of a saint artifact and sword aura could not be ignored. There was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, and his face was pale. This was the first time he had been injured by a martial honor. Li Lingtian's expression was calm, but he was shocked deep down. A martial emperor powerhouse was indeed powerful. Even his saint weapon and sword force could not kill him. In fact, they could only break through his defense. His cultivation was still too weak. If a martial emperor powerhouse were to use this move along with the saint weapon, Old Man Mingtsong would have vanished into thin air long ago. What a terrifying sword aura! What a terrifying saint artifact! He even broke through the martial emperor's defense. Are Supreme Realm experts really that powerful? His name is Li Lingtian, the man who killed a 7th Heaven Supreme Realm expert in seconds when he was a martial emperor. He's also the powerhouse who wiped out the Dishi family. He should still have a destructive desolation 10 consecutive slashes. That's right. He hasn't used his desolate 10 consecutive strikes yet, and he hasn't used the myriad returning swords yet. I wonder which is stronger, the power of these two moves or a martial emperor powerhouse. Countless experts were shocked when they saw the power of this move. What left Li Lingtian speechless was that all of his moves were known by others, including all the warriors in the Azure continent. How was he going to play in the future? It was not easy to be a celebrity, because all of his moves had been remembered by others, and he had wiped out the Dishi family, which shocked the entire Azure continent. Saint Artifact, do you still want it? But you can only dream about getting the Saint Artifact. Even if I don't use this Saint Artifact, I'll still beat you until your mother can't recognize you. Li Lingtian activated his divine consciousness, and the Tianyu sword transformed into a stream of light that entered his glabella. The aura around his body slowly rose. He used the true dragon body barrier, and the shocking dragon energy protected him. His expression was calm as he looked at Old Man Mingtsong coldly. His divine sense locked onto Old Man Mingtsong. As long as he made a move, he would launch a shocking destructive attack. Countless experts retreated far away. Even the 9 Super 9th Heaven Martial Honored Warriors and the 3 9th Heaven Martial Honored Warriors of the Queen's Palace retreated. In the middle were Li Lingtian, Old Man Mingtsong, Longda, and Old Man Ming Xiao. Upon hearing Li Lingtian's mocking of a martial emperor powerhouse, they were both speechless and jealous. To be able to insult a martial emperor in front of a martial emperor powerhouse like this, he was a unique existence in the Azure continent. However, when they thought of Li Lingtian's strength, they dared not treat him as a martial honor anymore. If they did, they would be courting death. You're Li Lingtian. To the surprise of countless powerhouses, Old Man Mingtsong did not intend to make a move. Instead, he asked Li Lingtian. Elder Mingtsong had been cultivating in seclusion and was unaware of Li Lingtian's deeds. However, he had no choice but to take this revered martial artist seriously when he saw the other powerhouses being shocked by Li Lingtian's existence, the sacred weapon, and the sword force. That's right. I'm Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian said calmly. He was stunned. Could this old monster be up to something? Stop! Old Man Mingtsong shouted at Old Man Ming Xiao. Immediately, after an explosion, Longda and Old Man Ming Xiao separated. No one knew what Old Man Mingtsong was planning. Aren't you going to fight? Li Lingtian's tone was calm, but he was feeling nervous as well. The fluctuation on the array altar below was getting stronger. The other side of the transboundary array must have received the message that the powerhouses were coming soon. You go. It's still too early for you and my House of Storms. If you want to kill the two of us, you have at most a 50% chance. I have a 70% chance of killing you. I don't want to take advantage of others when they are in danger. Once the matter with the Queen's Palace is resolved, someone will naturally come to find you. Elder Mingtsong shouted as he looked at the array altar before turning to Li Lingtian. This young man was terrifyingly powerful, but it would not be easy for him to kill him. At this time, the Queen's Palace and the House of Storms were very important. They must not make any mistakes. Is that so? Try my myriad returning swords and desolate 10 consecutive slashes first. Is it that easy to send me away like this? With a faint smile on his face, Li Lingtian activated his divine consciousness, and the heavenly fault sword appeared in front of him. The heavenly fault sword spun continuously as waves of Saint weapons pressure burst forth. The air began to spin, and the entire space seemed to have become a vortex. A terrifying sword will dispersed. Li Lingtian extended his hand and a ball of light appeared in his hand. The ball of light was filled with countless exquisite little swords. All the powerhouses were rendered speechless by the conversation between Li Lingtian and Old Man Ming Song. A martial honor was facing two martial emperors. The martial emperors had asked for the martial honor to leave, yet the martial honor had ignored them. Was this world crazy? Or was this world upside down? What do you want? Old Man Ming Song looked at Li Lingtian's eyes, which were focused on the array altar. Coupled with the sword intent and the injured ball of light around Li Lingtian, he felt a tingling sensation in his heart. Not only was this young man terrifyingly powerful, but he could also be a terrifying holy array master. If he used some kind of array to destroy the array altar, not only would the cross-realm array fail, but it would also destroy the experts of the House of Storms. I need 10 6th-grade inner cores for 3 seconds. Li Lingtian had a faint smile on his face as the light orb in his hand grew even more violent. The sword will wreaked havoc and the space was a terrifying sight. Hush! All the powerhouses were stunned and terrified. To think that a martial-honored realm expert would actually rob a martial emperor realm expert at this moment. He had never heard of a revered martial artist threatening a martial emperor, but now this place had appeared. Comparing people was infuriating. In the past it was always Wu Zun who fled far away after seeing the martial emperor. Now a martial emperor was being threatened and robbed by a martial honor in front of him. The situation was different from person to person, and the difference was so big. Alright, 10 tier 6 inner cores. Get lost. Old Man Ming Song and Old Man Ming Xiao were enraged. They exchanged a glance and took out the tier 6 monster beast inner cores from their respective storage pouches. They gathered 10 inner cores and threw them at Li Lingtian. Being robbed in front of the whole world like this was really f***ing embarrassing. After handing the inner core to Li Lingtian, he roared loudly with a twisted expression on his face. If it were not for the House of Storms, he would not have agreed to it and would have torn this young man apart. Even the Queen's Palace might not be able to deal with such a lineup. If that was the case, then Spirituality City would be majestic. In the depths of Spirituality City, there was a palace filled with spiritual energy. The entire palace occupied a total of 2,000 miles of Spirituality City. The palace was surrounded by tall city walls. Experts patrolled in the dark. It was as strict as a palace. Moreover, there were countless restriction arrays around the palace. It was difficult for outsiders to enter. Even if they did, they would be instantly killed. This was the awe-inspiring Queen's Palace. In the main palace hall of the Queen's Palace, countless super experts had already gathered. The powerhouses who could come here were all at the Martial Emperor realm. Other than a few Ninth Heaven Martial honored powerhouses and some relatives of the Queen's Palace, no one else was qualified to come here. Because the Queen's Palace was facing destruction, all the higher-ups were discussing matters here. Even the other 9th level martial honors and some martial honors of the Queen's Palace were not qualified to participate. In the palace, a beautiful woman was sitting on a throne. A luxurious crown symbolized royalty. The woman looked to be in her 30s, and she was born with a myriad of magnificence. At her peak she carried a supreme might. She was Queen Shunyu of the Queen Palace, a super powerhouse at the 4th level of the Martial Emperor realm. There were 7 to 8 Martial Emperor experts on both sides of the palace. There were also some important figures inside. Shun Tianzhou was among them, but he was severely injured. Your Majesty, that's what happened. If it wasn't for that young man, I would have died under the joint attack of Old Man Ming Song and Old Man Ming Xiao. Shun Tianzhou told them about the situation at Boundless Heaven Mountain. The Martial Emperor powerhouses were shocked when they heard what Shun Tianzhou said. The one who was most shocked was a young girl sitting in the lower part of the palace. The young girl's charm was peerless and could topple cities. There was a hint of charm between her eyebrows, but her small face was extremely pure. He didn't care about anything at first, but after hearing Shun Tianzhou's words, he couldn't calm down anymore. If Li Lingtian was here, He would have recognized her at a glance. She was the Queen's Palace's little princess, Shun Mei-er. However, the current Shun Mei-er was different from before. She had the temperament of Queen Shunyu, the aura of a superior. Moreover, his cultivation was no longer a warrior spirit, but a powerful martial emperor. You said that the young man is only a first-level Supreme Realm expert, but he has the strength to make a martial emperor fear him. He also has a 7th-tier shape-shifting demonic beast? Shunyu said lightly, looking at Shun Tianzhou with a sharp gaze. Although they were husband and wife, as the queen she had a superior attitude. She had developed the aura and habits of a superior. That's right. He should be a sacred array master and has a spatial treasure. After saving me he threw me away. I don't know what happened after that. When Shun Tianzhou said that he was thrown out, he couldn't bring himself to say it. He was a martial emperor, but he was thrown out by a first-level martial honored realm martial artist. It was really embarrassing to say it. I already know who he is. When Shunyu spoke, he looked at Shun Mei-er intentionally or unintentionally, but his expression didn't change at all. She was like a high and mighty queen, as if there was no kinship in her heart. He retracted his gaze and said indifferently, "The House of Storms has used the world-crossing formation to come here. It's obvious that they want to deal with the Queen's Palace. This time they want to wipe out the Queen's Palace and dominate the Azure continent. 11. All of you must fight against the experts of the House of Storms with 120% of your strength, and strive to get through this difficult time." Empress Shunyu's tone was cold, and there was no room for resistance. The martial monarch realm experts below could only listen carefully. Facing such a powerful queen, he was already used to Shunyu's power. All the powerhouses rushed towards the city wall. The powerhouses from House of Storms had crossed the border, and were naturally targeting the Queen's Palace. They had to protect the array when the martial emperor powerhouses attacked and broke the array. In a separate palace in the Queen's Palace, Shun Mei-er's face was calm, but her heart was in turmoil. She could not think of anyone else other than Li Lingtian, who was the white-robed young man her father was talking about. Moreover, the entire Tsong continent was abuzz with rumors about Li Lingtian. Oh. He was a martial emperor, and he had caused a huge commotion at the wedding of Dishi family and Tuoba family. He had killed a 7th-level martial honored realm warrior with one move. In the end, Tuoba family and Dishi family killed him with the Heaven and Earth 5 Elements Jade. But somehow, he managed to break away from the Tuoba family and Dishi family, and became a martial honored realm warrior. He wiped out the Dishi family and shocked the Azure continent. In a fit of anger, he destroyed the Emperor's family for a beauty. Now that she had arrived at Spirituality City, she knew that Li Lingtian had come to Spirituality City for her sake, and had saved her father for her. As she thought about it, crystal tears fell from her small face. She also knew that a heaven-defying monster like Li Lingtian must have more than one woman. For a favored son like him, there was no girl in the world who would not fall for him. However, he could fight all over the world for the woman he loved and provoke a heaven-defying family. However, she was the little princess of the Queen's Palace and had to inherit the Queen's Palace. Furthermore, the husband of the Queen's Palace had to change his surname and marry into the Queen's Palace. She knew that Li Lingtian would not behave like that, so she was conflicted. Li Lingtian came to another side of Spirituality City, and watched as countless powerhouses guarded the city walls. He was scheming in his heart. His aura disappeared and he entered the ground. He used his earth martial soul and arrived below the city wall in the blink of an eye. Below the city wall there was also a powerful restriction array. It was impossible to sneak in from below the city wall. Then spells were cast one after another, and the divine array diagram was also cast. After a full 10 minutes, Li Lingtian silently entered the array formation and entered the city wall alone. When they left the city wall, they had already entered the city. With a faint smile on his face, he subconsciously patted his body and felt that there was a lot of dust. Li Lingtian's heart sank when he saw the countless powerhouses in the city in panic. A battle between superpowers would lead to destruction. If the Queen's Palace could not hold on, they would be destroyed by the House of Storms and the Queen's Palace would become history. He was puzzled. The Queen's Palace, the Wind Moon Palace, And the House of Storms had existed in the Azure continent for tens of thousands of years. If they had not fought in the past, why would they fight now? For the Queen's Palace to be able to stand firm in the Azure continent for tens of thousands of years without being defeated, there must have been many battles between the three super forces. For them to be able to stand firm in such a battle, they must have a strong foundation. Under such circumstances, there must be some unspeakable secret between the Kanglin building and the Queen's Palace. Just like the marriage between Dishi family and Tuoba family, the ultimate goal was to open the ancient battlefield. Could it be that the House of Storms had something against the Queen's Palace? Or could it be that the Queen's Palace had some treasures that the House of Storms needed? As Li Lingtian thought about it, he walked toward the inn he was staying at. Geez, I recommend a good friend's work, the Mrs. Top Expert. Chapter 369 Chapter 369 Araidao Battle 1 Chapter 369 Araidao Battle 1 When he returned to the inn, Huang Fuyuyan and Qingling were waiting anxiously. They also knew that something shocking had happened outside. The Kanglin building had attacked the Queen's Palace. The city gates of Spirituality City were closed and the defense array was activated. However, Li Lingtian had yet to return. How could they not be worried? Nonetheless, the two ladies were overjoyed to see Li Lingtian return safely. Young master, did you see the House of Storms attacking the Queen's Palace? Qingling asked curiously. They had only heard what the other warriors said in the inn and had never left the inn. They were also very curious about what was happening outside. Huang Fuyuyan looked at Li Lingtian curiously. Yes, that's right. The House of Storms did attack the Queen's Palace. There are no treasures on the Boundless Heaven Mountain. It's just a commotion caused by the House of Storms building the World Crossing formation. I also met two Martial Monarch Realm experts from the House of Storms. After a great battle, I obtained 10 6th-tier inner cores. Li Lingtian chuckled as he took out 10 tier 6 inner cores. If such inner cores were to be used on the war god, they would definitely be a force to be reckoned with. You fought against the Martial Monarch Realm expert. How's the situation? Huang Fuyuyan was shocked when she heard that Li Lingtian was able to return safely from his battle with the Martial Supreme, and that he had obtained 10 tier 6 inner cores. As a martial saint, she naturally understood the difference between a martial supreme and a martial honor. The higher the cultivation level, the greater the difference between the two. The difference between a martial emperor and a supreme was huge. The difference between a martial emperor and a martial saint was completely different. As for a martial saint and a martial god, there was nothing to compare. That's right. Since the other party's realm crossing formation was formed, I wasn't confident that I could kill the two Martial Monarch Realm experts. The other party didn't want to tangle with me either, so he gave me 10 inner cores and I left Boundless Heaven Mountain. 11. Li Lingtian said indifferently. He did not take his battle with the Martial Emperor seriously at all. However, he was shocked by the cultivation and strength of a Martial Monarch Realm expert. If he encountered a Martial Monarch Realm expert alone, he might have a chance to escape. However, in the face of a battle between Martial Monarch Realm experts, he might be killed instantly if he was not careful. The two girls looked at Li Lingtian and knew that things were not as simple as they thought. The battle between martial emperors was not as easy as it sounded. Do you have any plans for the battle at the Queen's Palace? Huang Fuyuyan pondered for a moment. Although she was on good terms with Li Lingtian and was treated as his maid, she knew that he was joking. Naturally, she was concerned about Li Lingtian's affairs. When they fight, one of them will lose. Even if the winner wins, it will be a miserable victory. I don't want to interfere in the affairs between the House of Storms and the Queen's Palace. However, you can't touch my bottom line. Besides, I have some grudges with the House of Storms. All the martial emperor powerhouses who came here must stay. Li Lingtian spoke in a relaxed manner. Qingling did not know Li Lingtian's background, but Huang Fuyuyan did. She knew that Li Lingtian had the war god and the gorilla demon. As long as they did not encounter a martial god powerhouse, no one would be able to withstand the gorilla demon's destructive attacks. However, she knew that every time the gorilla demon attacked, some of its demonic power would be consumed. After 3 times, the gorilla demon's cultivation would be exhausted, and it could only wait for nirvana to be reborn. Be careful. When you save your little lover, you will leave the Azure continent and raise your cultivation. Although the Azure continent and the Azure continent don't have any powerful existences, other than the Azure continent and the Azure continent, the other places are extremely powerful. It's not something you can imagine. Also, you have to be careful. There are many martial saints who seal their cultivation base and travel around the divine martial continent in order to train their mental state. If you encounter a martial saint by accident, you will be finished. Huang Fuyuyan nodded. Li Lingtian had his own principles and it was not her place to stop him. Furthermore, their relationship was rather ambiguous. She understood that even if she was Li Lingtian's woman, she could only silently support him. Following that, Li Lingtian and the others cultivated in the inn while the others continued to relay the news to him. In the House of Storms, experts constantly crossed over. Other than martial emperors, there were also martial honors and martial emperors. There were 3,000 martial emperors and 1,000 martial honors. Moreover, these martial honors and martial emperors were all super experts. There were also 25 martial emperor powerhouses. Such a lineup could completely wipe out the Queen's palace. However, the experts of the House of Storms did not start to attack. Instead, they seemed to be waiting for something. The spirituality city was surrounded by countless experts. As long as a place was destroyed, it would be attacked by the experts of the House of Storms. The Queen's palace did not move at all. They only mobilized countless super experts to guard the array on the city wall. As the days passed, more and more experts came from the House of Storms. What puzzled Spirit Rhyme City was that besides the experts from the House of Storms, there were also experts from other forces who had joined the House of Storms. They were completely trying to wipe out the Queen's palace. Rumble. On this day, a shocking explosion shook the entire Spirit Rhyme City. All the experts were shocked. The 9 9th-level Supreme Realm Array Masters of the House of Storms had established a powerful array. The attack from the array formation carried the power to destroy the world. This power directly bombarded the defense array of Spirituality City. The defensive formation trembled and quickly blocked this attack. The formation returned to its previous appearance. Boom! With another explosion, the shocking light bombarded the array. At the same time that the light bombarded the array, the 9 supreme martial artists inside the city wall also cast a spell and entered the array. In an instant, the 9 super array masters clashed. The array masters of the Queen's palace blocked the attacks and maintained the defensive array while the experts of the House of Storms attacked the defensive array. The earth-shattering explosions continued, and seconds passed. Destruction always held the advantage. Soon the array formation began to tremble. Countless super experts in the city saw the trembling of the array and became worried. If the array was broken, tens of millions of cultivators in Spirit Rhyme City would be destroyed. Some martial supremes and martial emperors had already begun to prepare for a great battle when they saw the array trembling. At this moment, a faint voice came from the sky. The 9 palaces are the heavens and the earth, and the 8 trigrams are the myriad phenomena. Defense is always a failure. Only by using offense instead of defense, combining offense and defense, can a true defensive formation be formed. The voice was calm and ethereal. When this voice reached the ears of all the warriors, they were all puzzled and curious. To be able to use voice to spread hundreds of miles, his cultivation must not be simple. Countless powerhouses were puzzled, but when the 9th heaven revered realm array masters in the city heard this voice, their expressions changed drastically, and they immediately became excited. The world is in chaos. The 5 elements are the foundation, and the 4 elements are the 10,000 realms. The beginning of the infinite, the myriad of illusions. Lingxiao Peak destroy. Oh! In the air, that ethereal voice appeared word by word. No martial artist could understand it, only a few super array masters were mesmerized by it. The spells in their hands had also completely deviated from the normal ones at the beginning. However, in the face of the array attack of the House of Storms, the array became as stable as an iron bucket and did not even tremble. At this moment, The 9 array masters had solemn expressions on their faces. They cast a spell and instantly, the spells of the 9 supreme array masters fused together. As the 9 spells fused, a colorful light immediately appeared on the defensive array. Instantly, countless spiritual chi of heaven and earth gathered and formed into twisted lines. In an instant, the defensive formation completely formed a colorful light. At this moment, the light from the House of Storms hit the defense array of Spirit Rhyme City. Boom! With an explosion, the light entered the defensive array. In an instant, the defensive array swallowed this light. Then, a destructive attack exploded outwards. This destructive attack was the light from the House of Storms just now. The power of the light was countless times stronger when it returned than when it came. Boom! Oh. The destructive light was counterattacked, and its power increased by countless times. For a moment, the experts of the House of Storms were not prepared at all and were bombarded by their own light. Countless experts were instantly turned into ashes. Even many Supreme Realm experts were killed. 2 martial emperors became the targets of the attack. Both martial emperors spat out a mouthful of blood. Their faces were extremely pale. They could not use their true energy for the time being. Hush! The tens of millions of warriors in Spirit Rhyme City were shocked when they saw this ending. The experts of the House of Storms outside were also extremely shocked. They did not expect such a change to happen. Boom! Another shocking ray of light bombarded the defensive array. Similarly, this ray of light was devoured and returned in the blink of an eye. The power it released was even stronger. Although they were prepared, such a destructive attack still injured countless experts of the House of Storms. The 9 super array masters realized that something was wrong and quickly stopped. If this was the case, the Kanglin house would only be injured. It wouldn't be long before the defense array of Spirit Rhyme City was not broken. Instead, it killed all of their people. In the city, countless experts were stunned by this scene and once again recognized the power of array masters. He was also shocked by the voice in the dark. He did not know who it was. He actually had such a powerful array cultivation. With just a few words, he could unleash such heaven-defying power. To be able to turn the tables with just a few words, such a person was definitely not an ordinary person. The 9 array masters were also seriously comprehending the few sentences of the array Tao. In the eyes of the array masters, those few sentences were supreme holy scriptures. Although they were excited, they did not dare to act rashly because there were countless super experts outside. If they were careless, the array would be broken and Spirit City would be exposed to the destructive attacks of countless super experts. Which expert is it? Please come out for a chat. The 9 super revered array masters of the House of Storms shouted. They also realized that there must be a super array master in Spirit Rhyme City. Otherwise, such a thing would not have happened. After shouting, all the experts became silent. The tens of thousands of experts in Kanglin Tower were silent. The tens of thousands of warriors in the city were also silent. They all wanted to know who this mysterious person was. Chapter 370 Chapter 370 Queen Shunyu. Chapter 370 Queen Shunyu. Have you forgotten me so quickly? Seems that I didn't teach you a lesson. You guys don't remember. That faint voice rang out. When the voice fell, a white-robed young man was already floating in the air above the defense array of Spirituality City. His white clothes fluttered in the wind, and his entire person was extremely carefree. His powerful array Tao cultivation and elegant figure made countless experts admire him. However, what shocked countless experts was that this figure had strangely appeared on the defensive array. They did not know where it had come from. If he was outside, he would definitely be discovered by the experts of the House of Storms. If he was in the city, why did he appear outside the defensive array? Could it be that he had passed through the defensive array? This thought immediately made countless experts curious and afraid. If they could easily pass through the array, what kind of powerful cultivation would they need? It's you. It's you. It's him. It's him. For a moment, countless experts recognized the white-robed young man on the defensive array. Li Lingtian had a faint smile on his face as he looked at the 9 array masters from the House of Storms and the 20 over martial emperor powerhouses. As for the other martial honors and martial emperors, he did not take them seriously at all. He didn't want to attack at first, but seeing that the defensive array was about to break, he was worried that Spirituality City would be destroyed. If the 9 array Dao masters could understand his words with his help, it would be their good fortune. If they couldn't understand his array Dao quintessence, then they deserved it. Li Lingtian's appearance shocked countless people. The powerhouses from the House of Storms and the Inspiration City were astonished when they witnessed Li Lingtian's strength at Mount Tianhao. Li Lingtian. It's Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian's reputation was well known in the Tsang continent. In the past year, Li Lingtian's name had spread across half of the continent. I didn't expect it to be him. In the Queen's Palace, Li Lingtian's figure appeared on a huge crystal stone in front of Shunyu, who was sitting on the throne. After Shunyu finished speaking, he looked at Shunmei, who was sitting down. Don't you want to know who defeated the array master of the House of Storms? A rare smile appeared on Shunyu's face. In this place only she, Shun Tianzhou, her 3 daughters, and a few disciples were present. I don't want to know. Shunmei said calmly. To her, it didn't matter who defeated the enemy's array Dao master. In her heart, other than him, no one else was worth anything. She wouldn't care about anything else. Where's Li Lingtian? Shunyu looked at Shunmei and sighed in her heart. This was the Queen's Palace's rule, and she couldn't break it. Otherwise, she wouldn't have made things difficult for her precious daughter. What is it? Li Lingtian. Hearing Shunyu's words, Shunmei's bright eyes turned and looked at the crystal. Looking at the elegant figure in white inside the crystal, Shunmei revealed a faint smile. Moreover, there was happiness in her smile. She looked at the figure in the crystal as if she had seen a real person. After a long time, Shunmei still looked at the crystal stone, not letting go of a single thing, worried that she would miss out on anything related to him. Li Lingtian, the House of Storms has no enmity with you. Why are you always targeting us? Don't you take my House of Storms seriously? Old man Ming Song recognized Li Lingtian as he shouted with a furious expression on his face. This young man was the one who had ruined the House of Storms' plan several times and messed up what was supposed to be smooth sailing. Furthermore, the House of Storms had to clean up the mess in the end. The House of Storms had 10,000 powerhouses who were now dominating over Spirituality City, and were determined to win. However, it was truly detestable that they had discovered Li Lingtian's whereabouts. I said you don't have a good memory, but you really don't. It's time for you to go home and retire. You're making a fool of yourself here. I told you that the House of Storms is just a slightly bigger ant. You just don't believe me. Sometimes if you think too highly of yourself, you will die faster. With a smile on his face, Li Lingtian glared at old man Ming Song. If it were not for the formation of the Realm Crossing Formation, he would have taken the risk to eliminate this old man, and he would not have been so talkative until now. He was relaxed, but his words had stunned all the martial artists in Spirit Rhyme City, and the experts from the House of Storms. As one of the 3 super forces in the Azure Continent, the House of Storms was definitely the strongest in the Azure Continent. Now, however, Li Lingtian, a revered martial artist, had described him as a slightly bigger ant. Who would not be shocked? Damn it! Old man Ming Song and all the martial monarch realm experts of the House of Storms were furious. In front of all the martial artists in the world, they actually called the House of Storms an ant. With that, the 3 martial emperor powerhouses dashed toward Li Lingtian in a flash, intending to tear him apart. However, by the time the 3 figures arrived at Li Lingtian's position, he had already entered the array as if he had just passed through a bubble. The 3 martial emperor powerhouses punched the defensive array. Rumble! The 3 martial emperor powerhouses' attacks erupted with destructive power. However, the 3 attacks were reflected back with a power several times stronger than before. The 3 martial emperor powerhouses suffered a rebound and were sent flying by his attack. They spat out a mouthful of blood and their expressions were extremely ugly. The entire process took only a split second. In that split second, Li Lingtian's body had only sunk a little. However, This action stunned all the powerhouses. This was a powerful defensive formation, yet he entered it without a care. The 3 attacks also injured 3 martial monarch realm experts. The battle had not even begun, but the House of Storms had already suffered a lot. I'll leave the matters here to you. Li Lingtian sauntered away step by step, leaving behind a dashing silhouette. There were 9 array masters guarding this place and more than 10 martial emperor powerhouses. Naturally, he did not have to worry about them. If the Queen's palace wasn't worried, what was he worried about? Li Lingtian left the city wall and made his way toward the Queen's palace. He had already been exposed. The people from the Queen's palace should have known about his arrival long ago. If he did not go to the Queen's palace, others would have something to say. The Queen's palace was one of the 3 superpowers of the Azure continent. Even when faced with the attack of the strongest House of Storms, the Queen's palace did not panic at all. I'm Li Lingtian. Greetings, Queen of the Queen Palace. In front of the Queen's palace, Li Lingtian called out calmly. His voice was calm, but it traveled far into the depths of the Queen's palace. When he finished speaking, he did not stop because the other party did not answer. Instead, he walked straight in. His footsteps were steady, and he had a faint confident smile on his face. Facing the powerful Queen's palace, he did not show any fear or panic. As he walked deeper into the Queen's palace step by step, the numerous hidden powerhouses did not make a single move. Li Lingtian understood that these hidden powerhouses had obtained permission from the Queen's palace. Each step was extremely steady. It seemed very slow, but each step crossed a very long distance. Soon, Li Lingtian arrived at the Queen's palace. Looking at the dozen or so figures inside, Li Lingtian secretly circulated his primordial qi and slowly walked inside. His gaze was fixed on the woman on the throne. With a sweep of his gaze, he directly ignored all the martial artists. Finally, his gaze fell on a young girl among them. I'm here. In the hall, Queen Shunyu didn't speak, and no one dared to speak either. The atmosphere in the hall was extremely oppressive. However, Li Lingtian was at ease in the face of this oppressive aura. He was not affected at all. He looked at Shun Meier seriously. He had ignored everyone, including Queen Shunyu. Meier knew that you would come. Shun Meier looked at Li Lingtian as tears rolled down her cheeks. She did not care that there were other people around, including the Queen, as she threw herself into Li Lingtian's arms. I'll definitely come because I, Li Lingtian, have a woman here. Li Lingtian held Shun Meier in his arms and gently stroked her back with one hand. He comforted her gently with a confident smile on his face. However, the atmosphere in the palace was becoming increasingly strange. Her Highness Shun Yu's expression was icy cold, while the rest of the people were fuming with rage. Most of them were gloating at Li Lingtian and his wife. Impudent! One of the women shouted as she glared at Li Lingtian with a fierce gaze. Her cultivation base of a 5th heaven martial honored realm was unleashed. Shunyan, the eldest disciple of the Queen, and also the eldest princess. Seeing how Li Lingtian was behaving so presumptuously in front of the Queen, he shouted out loud. This way, he could show his loyalty to the Queen. The other disciples were also glaring at Li Lingtian coldly, feeling angry and jealous. Greetings, Your Highness. Li Lingtian completely ignored Shun Yan. In front of him, she was nothing but a clown. Dragons would make enemies of ants. If they were to lower themselves to the same level as this clown, wouldn't they be looking for trouble themselves? Then he bowed to Shunyu. This bow was just a form of respect for the elders. There was no other meaning behind it. It was also a form of courtesy for the younger generation. After saluting Shunyu, he bowed at Shun Tianzhou. It was clear that Li Lingtian was not doing this for the sake of Shun Tianzhou's status and cultivation base. You sure are brave. To actually be lovey-dovey in front of this queen. Who gave you such courage? Her Highness Shunyu was stunned by Li Lingtian's actions. For the first time, she was at a loss for what to do. In the past, the warriors would kneel before her. She was a high and mighty queen, but when faced with this young man, she had nothing to say for a moment. He was pleased to see Shun Meier and Li Lingtian's reaction. However, when he thought of the Queen's palace's rules, His expression turned cold. Please forgive me, Your Majesty. I have always been like this when I am not in the wrong. Li Lingtian replied indifferently in a tone that was neither humble nor respectful. However, after he finished speaking, all the warriors in the hall were stunned. They actually dared to oppose the queen at this time because they knew that the queen was already on the verge of anger. Chapter 371 Chapter 371 3 Waves of Pressure. Chapter 371 3 Waves of Pressure. Shun Mei-er was stunned by Li Lingtian's words. She knew her mother's character the best. She had always been high and mighty and never allowed others to go against her. Li Lingtian's words had already angered her mother. Your Highness, he didn't mean it. Shun Mei-er did not know what to do either. She quickly pleaded for Li Lingtian. No matter how powerful Li Lingtian was, he would not have a chance to leave this place alive. Even if she stood on Li Lingtian's side, Her Majesty would not let Li Lingtian off. Humph, arrogant. You're so arrogant in the Queen's palace. Let's see what you've got. Queen Shun, you didn't even bother with Shun Mei-er. Her entire body was cold. She was obviously enraged. With that said, a terrifying pressure came pressing down on Li Lingtian. A fourth Heaven Martial Emperor powerhouse's pressure could suppress anyone below the Martial Emperor realm. Li Lingtian was only a smiling first Heaven Martial honored realm. She was not in the mood to fight him at all. All she needed to do was to suppress the young man before her with a wave of her pressure transformation. All the warriors in the hall were gloating. Only Shun Mei-er and Shun Tianzhou looked at the pressure in the sky in shock. Li Lingtian's heart trembled as the mighty Martial Emperor's pressure enveloped him. The pressure was not much different from the pressure of the gorilla demon. It seemed that the Queen of the Martial Monarch realm was not simple. She was a level 4 Martial Monarch realm expert, yet her pressure had reached such a level. Facing such a super expert, he had already circulated his true essence when he spoke. As long as the other party attacked, he would block with all his might. Looking at the pressure enveloping him, a shocking dragon chi surged out. The light shield of the true dragon was also used. Only dragon energy could withstand the pressure of a super expert. Boom! With a dull thud, a powerful pressure landed on Li Lingtian's body. They were not as shocked as they had imagined when Li Lingtian was sent flying. Li Lingtian's beam shield only trembled slightly as the powerful pressure was blocked by a faint aura. His body was forced to take a few steps back. Facing Queen Shun Yu's pressure attack, a first-level martial honored realm actually received it just like that. It was completely beyond everyone's imagination. They all knew how terrifying the Queen's pressure was. Even a first Heaven Martial Supreme would be sent flying by this pressure, let alone a first Heaven Martial Supreme. Queen Shun Yu was also surprised, but her expression did not change. The faint pressure from her body pressed down again, twice as strong as before. Boom! Another dull thud was heard as Li Lingtian retreated 5 steps. His expression changed as blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. The first time the pressure bombarded him, his mind was greatly shaken. If not for the dragon energy protecting his body, he would have been sent flying long ago. He was incomparably shocked. This queen's strength was too terrifying. The pressure of a 4th-level martial emperor was definitely not as terrifying as the pressure of a gorilla demon. However, the pressure of the queen's palace was not much different from that of a gorilla demon. It must have something to do with the cultivation technique. Otherwise it wouldn't be so terrifying. He could no longer withstand the destructive pressure of the second pressure attack. He could barely withstand it, but he was also heavily injured. Humph! Shun Yu was shocked when he saw Li Lingtian's insane suppressive defense. He knew his own strength well. He was a peak level 4 martial emperor. Even if he were to meet a level 6 martial emperor, he would not be defeated. Oh! He did not expect that this young man, who was only a first firmament supreme realm expert, would actually be able to withstand his pressure. With a cold snort, the destructive pressure bore down on Li Lingtian. The people in the hall felt as if they were being destroyed and retreated far away. Li Lingtian looked at Shun Yu indifferently without any intention of avoiding him. He activated the Divine Dragon Ring, and unleashed a powerful dragon energy. The destructive pressure and dragon energy collided in an instant. Puff! Li Lingtian's face turned pale as he spat out a mouthful of blood. However, his smile remained. His body had already retreated to the entrance of the hall, but the destructive pressure still existed. Your mayor's mother. I'll take 3 of your attacks as a form of respect for you. It's not that I'm afraid of you. Li Lingtian walked into the hall step by step. Each step weighed more than 1,000 pounds and his face was trembling. No matter how heaven-defying he was, it was impossible for him to defeat the Queen's 4th-level martial monarch realm pressure. He didn't retaliate against the 3 waves of pressure. He was doing this for Shun Meier's sake. Hush! Everyone in the hall gasped. It turned out that the other party didn't have the chance to fight back. He had only endured the 3 waves of pressure because of Shun Meier. Could it be that he really had the ability to resist the Queen's pressure? No one believed it, but they were shocked to see Li Lingtian withstand 3 waves of pressure. At the very least, they would not be able to withstand the Queen's 3 waves of pressure. Alright, let's see how capable you are. Shun Yu's heart skipped a beat. He was also extremely curious, but his expression was extremely cold. With a wave of his hand, a substantial pressure blasted toward Li Lingtian. In an instant, the pressure traveled 100 meters and landed on Li Lingtian. 5 elements Qi. Li Lingtian did not dare to be careless. He circulated his 5 elements martial souls and a terrifying pressure burst forth. His true dragon Qi protected his mind and his expression was grave. Rumble! With a loud explosion, Li Lingtian was forced to take half a step back. However, he was much better than before. At least he was not forced back. Moreover, this pressure was the Queen's full strength. One could imagine how powerful it was. Devouring light. With a wave of his hands, Li Lingtian quickly devoured the countless spirit Qi and pressure in the hall. Seeing this, everyone was stunned. Queen Shun Yu's expression changed as well. She waved her hand and retracted the pressure. The air was sucked in, and everyone staggered and almost fell to the ground. Li Lingtian's body swayed as he retracted his devouring light, dragon energy, and 5 elements energy. His expression remained calm. For a moment there was no sound in the hall. No one dared to breathe loudly. He wondered what the Queen was thinking. He did not know what would happen next. Alright. Meier has good taste, but it's impossible for you to take her away. This is the rule of the Queen's palace. If you want to be with Meier, you can only change your surname and marry into the Queen's palace. After a long time, Empress Shun Yu spoke. This young man had a powerful aura and a magical 5 elements martial spirit. He was a rare figure. She did not care about this young man's cultivation at all, but his future was good. Your Majesty, I know the rules of the Queen's palace, but marrying into the Queen's palace is not something I can do. Moreover, I want to take Meier away from the Queen's palace. Li Lingtian did not hesitate to ask her to marry into his family and change her surname. Wasn't that humiliating? Even if he died, he could not change his surname. If he even changed his surname, would he still be considered a person? I've already given you a chance. It's impossible for you to take her away. Ask her if she will go with you. The Queen's expression was still as cold as ice. Today, this young man had already gone against her countless times. She had already taken a step back for Meier, but now, he still did not know what was good for him. After saying that, he looked at Shun Meier with a cold gaze. For a moment, everyone in the hall was stunned by this young man's arrogance. He actually dared to be so rude in front of the Queen. Wasn't he courting death? Immediately, everyone turned to look at Li Lingtian and Shun Meier. It was impossible for them to take Shun Meier away. Shun Meier looked at the Queen before her eyes fell on Li Lingtian. Their eyes met. He was in a dilemma. On one side was his mother. Although he did not like what his mother had done, she would always be his mother. On the other side was the person he loved. She could come to the powerful Queen's palace for him, and use her body to block all dangers for her. In this world she could no longer find such a person. She could no longer find someone who truly loved her. I'll go with him. Shen Meier looked into Li Lingtian's eyes. She was destined to be his woman for the rest of her life and forever. She could give up everything to follow him because he was the only person in this world who could treat her sincerely. When he said this, he felt very relaxed. Between two difficult choices, he chose the one he liked and expressed his feelings. Everyone in the hall was puzzled. Shen Meier's choice was completely beyond their imagination. Reason. The queen looked calm, as if she had already known this outcome. However, she was curious why her daughter would choose to leave with him. Because I'm his woman. I'm his silly woman. I'll always be his woman. A blissful smile appeared on Shen Meier's face as she spoke calmly. Her eyes were fixed on Li Lingtian as if they were the only two people in the world. A simple sentence was enough. There was no need for too many reasons. Silly woman. This was the way he addressed her. It was also the most heartwarming way she had ever heard him address her. She's the little princess of the Queen's palace, my daughter. She's going to inherit the Queen's palace. Do you think I'll let you take her away? The Queen's heart trembled. She did not expect her daughter to explain everything with such a simple sentence. Naturally, she knew that her daughter was already with this young man. There was no turning back and she could only start with Li Lingtian. If they could keep Li Lingtian in the Queen's palace, the matter would be resolved and the Queen's palace would gain a powerful helper. Your Majesty, do you also know that Meier is your daughter? Do you think she's willing to inherit the Queen's palace? Do you know what she needs? You're a high and mighty queen. Do you know what your family needs? What did you give them? I don't know if your highness wants me to take Meier away, but I will. Li Lingtian replied calmly. There was no change in his expression as he looked at the queen calmly without any fear. The few wise stunned everyone, and their hearts trembled. Chapter 372, Chapter 372. 3-Day Agreement, 1. Chapter 372. 3-Day Agreement, 1. There was a brief silence in the hall. It was terrifyingly quiet. It was so quiet that it made one's heart tremble. One could even hear their trembling heartbeat. The expression on the queen's face changed several times. Gradually, her expression turned cold. No one knew what Shen Yu was thinking, but they all felt uneasy. Shen Yu's heart was also trembling. He was Meier's mother, and Meier was his most beloved daughter. However, for the sake of the queen's palace, he had no choice but to sacrifice her happiness. She was the queen, but she had no choice. A woman had gained the world, but she had lost everything she wanted the most. This was the most painful thing. She had lost everything. However, there was nothing he could do about it. This was the rule of the queen's palace. Are you blaming Bengong? This is a world where the strong are respected. Do you want to change all of this? Unless you can become an ultimate powerhouse and control the fate of the people in the world. The Queen's palace is the same. You can't break the rules of the Queen's palace because you don't have the ability. Shen Yu's expression was as cold as ice. Everyone in the palace felt their hearts turn cold, and their bodies couldn't help but tremble. No one would dare to endure the Queen's wrath. That's right, the strong are respected. What does your highness think is a true expert? Li Lingtian's face was calm and collected as he pulled Shen Meier into his arms with one hand. Her eyes looked straight at Shen Yu without fear, the high and mighty queen. He had already reached this point and he had no way out. What made him most satisfied was that Shen Meier chose to stand on his side. You're only a mere martial honor. What qualifications do you have to call yourself a strong person? Alright, since you want to be strong, I'll give you a chance. As long as you wipe out the strong people from the House of Storms in Spirit Rhyme City, you'll be strong and she'll let you take her away. The coldness on Queen Shen Yu's face gradually disappeared, but she revealed a disdainful expression. No matter how powerful a revered martial artist was, he was no match for a martial emperor. Moreover, there were more than 20 martial monarch realm experts in the House of Storms. Even an 8th-level martial monarch realm expert would not be able to deal with so many martial monarch realm experts. Moreover, there were tens of thousands of experts in the House of Storms, nearly 30 martial monarch realm experts and more than 1,000 supreme realm experts. With so many experts, who else could deal with them? After saying that, he glared at Li Lingtian coldly. It was impossible. Even if this young man in front of him could become a martial emperor or a martial saint, it would be a matter of a few hundred years later. His problem would definitely make this young man retreat. But then all the experts, including Shun Yu and Shun Meier, were shocked. Isn't it just a mere house of storms? I said 2 years ago that I would wipe out the house of storms. Today is just the right day. I hope your majesty will remember what I just said. Within 3 days, all the warriors of the House of Storms will be wiped out. Li Lingtian turned to leave after he finished speaking. Before he left, he reached out and stroked Shun Meier's face. He walked away in an extremely dissipated manner, without the slightest bit of hesitation. After Li Lingtian left, everyone finally reacted. Their expressions kept changing. They did not know if they should be disdainful or shocked by the young man's words. Li Lingtian left the queen's palace and returned to the inn. He was meditating and cultivating in his room. He did not take what happened in the queen's palace to heart at all. Oh. He had said 3 days, which meant that he had to eliminate the experts of the House of Storms within 3 days. How did it go? Huang Fuyin asked Li Lingtian when she saw him after he was done cultivating. Naturally, she knew that Li Lingtian had gone to the queen's palace, but she was not sure how the matter was resolved. Looks like we should leave. Li Lingtian smiled faintly with a relaxed expression on his face. Leave? Where's your little lover? Huang Fuyin was stunned. This was not Li Lingtian's style. For the sake of what he wanted to do, he had to try anything. He could not give up so easily. Even if he had to die, he would not hesitate. If he wanted to leave now, something must have happened. Can't you stop saying that? What little lover? You're making me look like I'm having an affair. I will naturally take her away. After this, I will wipe out the House of Storms and leave the Azure continent. Li Lingtian replied calmly. He was somewhat against the term little love. After all, the image of a little lover in his previous life was not good. Shun Meier was his first woman, but his fiancée was Tang Zimeng. Huang Fuyin had even started to view Shun Meier as her lover. Bring her out of the queen's palace, wipe out the House of Storms, and leave the Azure continent. You want to use the gorilla demons to deal with them. Huang Fuyin came to her senses and immediately understood what Li Lingtian meant. With his cultivation base, it was impossible for him to achieve this. The only one who could accomplish this was the gorilla demon. He had called for the gorilla demons to wipe out the House of Storms and settle the matter with the queen's palace. There was definitely no need for him to stay in Azure continent anymore. Now that the matter in Azure continent had been resolved, he had to return to Azure continent and find a way to return to the divine continent. That's right. You guys stay here for the next 2 days. I'm going out for a while. I'll test the power of the war god first. Li Lingtian walked out after he finished speaking. If he wanted to leave, this defensive grand array did not have the slightest ability to stop him at all. Moreover, the Spirit Rhyme City did not allow martial artists to enter, but it did not restrict them from leaving. He easily left the defense array of Spirituality City and flew quickly. In half an hour, he arrived in front of a sea area and cast a spell. In a split second, Li Lingtian sensed the existence of the war god. With a flash, he quickly flew toward the sea and soon arrived on the war god. The battleship he had built himself would naturally not be obstructed at all. When Li Lingtian was casting the magic art, all the powerhouses were awakened. They were all ready to eliminate any enemies they spotted. Greetings, young master. Dozens of powerhouses bowed respectfully when they saw Li Lingtian. They were also aware of Li Lingtian's robbery of a martial emperor in Spirituality City. Furthermore, he had used an array formation to catch the martial emperor of Kanglin House off guard. A supreme realm expert could only be described as heaven-defying. Humph! Li Lingtian nodded and headed straight to the top 3 floors of the war god. When he arrived at the 3rd floor of the war god, he waved his hand and cast a few obscure spells. A ray of light pressed down on the void, and the restriction shook. Feeling the trembling of the restriction, Ji walked out. When he saw Li Lingtian standing outside the restriction, he was elated. At the same time he cast a spell. Only when their spells were imprinted together could the restriction be activated. This was also the safest defense of the war god. Even if an array master came, they wouldn't be able to open it. It was Li Lingtian's design to have everyone inside open it at the same time. However, he could open it alone as he did not want to scare Ji and the others. Li Lingtian entered the restriction and arrived at the top floor of the war god. The view was spectacular. Tang Qingyue leaned back in her chair to rest. When she saw Li Lingtian's arrival, a faint smile appeared on her face. She took quick steps toward Li Lingtian. Lingtian, you're back. Yes, Sister Qingyue's cultivation has improved very quickly in the past 2 days. I've refined a Tier 5 Azure Yang pill. I should be able to break through after a period of time. I'll find a place with rich spiritual energy for you to break through. Also, we'll be returning to Green Island after a while. Li Lingtian smiled and allowed Tang Qingyue to pull him to a pavilion in the garden. He sat in the pavilion and enjoyed the fragrance of the flowers while Tang Qingyue sat beside him. Ji hugged Li Lingtian's arm with both hands. He did not speak, but his face revealed a curious expression. Back to Green Island. That's great. I haven't seen father and mother in a long time. Tang Qingyue was stunned for a moment, but then she became excited. Tears rolled down her cheeks. It had been a few years since she left Green Island. Her parents must be very worried. Now that they could go back, they were naturally extremely excited. Big brother, you're going back to Green Island. When the time comes, I'll see what your place looks like. Ji was happy as well. It did not matter where she was as long as Li Lingtian was with her. However, she was curious to see what Li Lingtian's hometown was like when she heard that he was going back to his hometown. Yes, there should still be half a year. I'll settle the matters of the Queen's Palace and the House of Storms in these 2 days. Li Lingtian nodded with a nostalgic look on his face. It had been a long time since he left Green Island. He wondered how Tang Ziming and his parents were doing. As for Sky Cloud Sect, the news of him being hit by the god's wrath must have spread throughout Green Continent. Sky Dragon Empire would definitely be in danger. Although the Heavenly Cloud battleship was powerful, without him, it was inevitable that something would happen. Following that, Li Lingtian chatted and rested with the 2 beauties. He did not have to worry about wiping out the powerhouses from the House of Storms. He only needed to use the war god to wipe out the powerhouses who had escaped. When the gorilla demon attacked, no matter how powerful a martial monarch realm expert was, he was just an ant. He was not worried about this at all. With 2 beautiful women accompanying him, he felt extremely happy. After all, each of these beautiful women were unparalleled existences in the divine martial continent. While he was resting on the war god, Spirituality City was already in chaos. The Purple Jade Palace had rebelled. There were originally 2 martial emperor powerhouses from the Purple Jade Palace, but for some reason, 3 more martial emperor powerhouses had appeared. 5 powerful martial emperors and hundreds of martial honors had suddenly launched a sneak attack. He had killed 4 martial monarch realm experts from the Queen's Palace and 2 of the 9 super martial supreme array Dao masters. The defensive array was broken. The experts of House of Storms and the Palace of Purple Jade joined forces to fight against the experts of Spirituality City. In an instant, dozens of martial emperors and thousands of supreme realm experts fought. The entire world trembled and collapsed, as if the end of the world had arrived. Chapter 373 Chapter 373 Whirlwind Killing Formation, and the Destruction of Heaven and Earth. Chapter 373 Whirlwind Killing Formation, and the Destruction of Heaven and Earth. The power of the battle could even be felt in the sea. Li Lingtian noticed the commotion and quickly flew toward Spirituality City. The scene that appeared before their eyes was a destructive battle. Tens of thousands of disciples of the Queen's Palace and the experts of Spirit Rhyme City had all joined the battle. The 10,000 martial emperors, martial supremes, and 30 martial sovereigns from the Azure Billow Tower were also constantly fighting with the martial sovereigns from the Queen's Palace. There were also 2 martial monarch realm experts from the Purple Jade Palace and 3 mysterious black-robed experts. They stood on the side of the House of Storms and bombarded the experts from the Spirit Rhyme City with destructive attacks. Rumble. Boom. Boom. Kacha, kacha. Ah 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 ah. Explosions rang out, accompanied by countless screams. Countless low-level martial artists were directly destroyed. Even martial emperors and martial supremes could be killed instantly if they were not careful. The Queen's Palace's experts were also fighting a bloody battle. They watched as countless of their loved ones died, and none of the Spirit Rhyme City's experts fled. On the city wall, Queen Shunyu, Shun Tianzhou, and the 3/4 Heaven Martial Emperor Realm Elders of the Queen's Palace had grave expressions on their faces. The House of Storms was determined to wipe out the Queen's Palace at all costs. Outsiders naturally did not know why, but the core members of the Queen's Palace knew why. Your Majesty, if this continues, the Queen's Palace will definitely be lost. Why don't we use the whirlwind killing formation? Shun Ning said seriously as she looked at Shunyu. Seeing countless experts of the Queen's Palace fall, she felt incredibly anxious. If this continued, even if the Queen's Palace survived, it wouldn't be able to become one of the 3 superpowers in the future. Wait, this queen has her own plans. Shunyu looked coldly at the battlefield. Countless disciples and experts were dying every second. The whirlwind killing formation was the most magical formation in the Queen's Palace. It used the wind element to form a destructive whirlwind killing formation. Wherever there was wind, there would be destruction. Even a martial emperor powerhouse could only die in front of the whirlwind killing array. However, the price to pay for using the whirlwind killing array was also very high. That was to exhaust the martial emperor's true origin, cultivation, and lifespan. A martial monarch realm expert's lifespan was a few hundred years. However, to cultivate to the martial monarch realm, it would take more than a few hundred years. Naturally, he would not waste his lifespan. However, in the face of such a great battle, if he did not pay, he would end up in an even worse state. Ah! Ah! With 2 screams, 2 martial monarch realm experts fell. One was the martial monarch realm expert from the Queen's Palace, and the other was the martial monarch realm expert from the House of Storms. At this point in the war, destruction was everywhere, and they were even willing to commit suicide in order to win the war. Li Lingtian was hiding in the distance as he watched the battle unfold. He was shocked to the core. He could not interfere in a battle between martial emperors. In front of a martial emperor, he was really a small ant. However, his cultivation could not compare to these martial monarch realm experts, but he could eliminate them. At this moment, a destructive whirlwind descended from the sky in the Queen's Palace in the depths of Spirituality City. The formless cloud and the formless wind were the most magical and fastest martial souls in the world. The masters of Kanglan House wanted to enter Spirit City, but they only received destructive attacks. The world is destroyed. The experts of the House of Storms did not dare to be careless when they saw the Queen's Palace use their strongest trump card. Kill. The leader of the group, a 4th Heaven Martial Emperor Realm expert, waved his hand and shouted softly. Immediately, a destructive beam of light shot toward Spirit Rhyme City. The speed was extremely fast, and the destructive light collided with the whirlwind. Crash. Boom. With a loud explosion, the 2 destructive forces disappeared, but they brought destruction to the space. The space shattered inch by inch. The wind raged and countless martial artists were instantly killed, turning into ashes and disappearing in the air. He actually brought the compass that can destroy the world. He really wants to wipe out the Queen's Palace. Queen Shunyu looked at the experts of House of Storms. On one side of House of Storms, 9 powerful array masters were using a huge compass together. The destructive attack light appeared from this compass. Your Majesty, bring the princess and the others back to the array altar. Leave this to us. Shun Ning looked at the battle in front of her. The Queen's Palace was destined to be destroyed this time. However, even if she destroyed Spirit City, the foundation of the Queen's Palace could not be destroyed. However, the Queen had to be there to guard the array altar. Right now, He could only let the queen return to the queen's palace to guard the array altar. Queen Shunyu didn't answer, but watched the two trump cards in the air. At this moment, a loud rumble sounded in the sky. The sound was still in the sky, but in the next moment, it appeared in the sight of all the experts. Looking at the huge monster in the sky, everyone was shocked. A silver spaceship with a radius of 200 miles floated in the air, almost blocking half of the sky. This silver spaceship was 10,000 meters long and 5,000 meters wide. It was tall and domineering. What's that? It looks like a flying ship. But how can there be such a huge flying ship in the divine martial continent? There's actually someone who can build such a powerful spaceship. What is this thing doing here? Could it be the trump card of the House of Storms? For a moment, countless martial artists in Spirit Rhyme City looked at the huge monster in the sky and were extremely shocked. The experts of the House of Storms were equally shocked. However, only Wu Zun and Martial Emperor knew that this huge monster was definitely not from the House of Storms. They did not know which force had such a terrifying guy. Soon countless experts were shocked again. They looked at the silver monster in confusion. A white-robed young man appeared on top of a silver monster. On top of this huge monster, a human was almost like an ant. Li Lingtian. It's actually Li Lingtian. Could this be Li Lingtian's? That's impossible. What's the use of this thing? He's a powerful holy array master. Only he can build such a powerful spaceship. Countless powerhouses who had seen Li Lingtian before recognized him, and were equally shocked. Such a huge flying ship, could it be used in a war? No way, no matter how powerful the flying ship was, it could not participate in the war. Everyone, long time no see. Li Lingtian's expression was calm as he smiled at the powerhouses from the House of Storms and Spirit Rhyme City. Tang Qingwanji arrived at the front of the war god and stood on either side of Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian, what are you trying to do? When Elder Ming Xiao saw Li Lingtian, a wave of rage surged out of his heart. He wished he could tear Li Lingtian apart. However, the two sides were currently engaged in a battle. They did not want to cause any more trouble, and did not make a move on Li Lingtian. If they were in Li Lingtian's shoes, they would definitely be the first to deal with him. I told you to wipe out your House of Storms. Li Lingtian smiled. He did not take the dozens of martial emperors below seriously. He looked at them as if they were dead. You're courting death. No matter how much old man Ming Xiao could endure, he could not tolerate Li Lingtian anymore. With a flash, a destructive attack crashed into Li Lingtian while his body shot forward like a cannonball. Humph! Li Lingtian did not move at all. He merely looked at old man Xiao who was flying toward him with a disdainful expression. I'll return your inner core to you. Following that, he spoke indifferently. None of the powerhouses knew what Li Lingtian meant by his words. However, they knew that Li Lingtian had robbed two martial supreme realm demonic beast inner cores before. Could it be that he was afraid of Elder Xiao and wanted to return the demonic beast inner cores? However, what they didn't expect was that a silver pillar appeared on the war god. The moment the pillar appeared, a ray of destructive light shot towards old man Xiao with incredible speed. Space itself trembled and tore apart before this light figure. A destructive aura appeared, causing all the experts to tremble in fear. Not good. Boom! Old man Ming Xiao sensed the danger of death and wanted to dodge, but it was already too late. With a loud explosion, the light shadow struck old man Ming Xiao without any suspense. Old man Ming Xiao's body paused in midair for a moment before exploding, turning into ashes and disappearing from the world. Ah! Shoo! All the experts who saw this cried out in surprise. They were completely stunned by this outcome, and their hearts trembled. Old man Xiao, who was at the second heaven of the martial emperor realm, was destroyed by a light shadow. He did not even have the chance to resist. This huge silver monster was too terrifying. The powerhouses from the House of Storms and Spirit Charm City stared at Li Lingtian on the war god, as if they were looking at a demon. The silver monster must be Li Lingtian. Who would dare to provoke a martial honor who could create something so destructive? What terrifying power! This thing is even more powerful than the whirlwind-killing formation of the Queen's palace. No wonder they said they would wipe out the House of Storms in 3 days. This strike killed a martial monarch realm expert. If it were to happen a few more times, the martial monarch realm expert of the House of Storms would be finished. What is this thing? Why is it so terrifying? The experts in Spirit Rhyme City and the Queen's Palace were shocked when they saw what had just happened. Shun Mei looked at Li Lingtian on the war god with a blissful expression. For a moment, the powerhouses from the House of Storms and Spirit Rhyme City were looking at Li Lingtian, who was in the air. They did not even have the intention to make a move. Even a martial emperor powerhouse was killed in an instant. Who would dare to make a move? This is the war god. The Kanglan building is very lucky to have given you a chance to escape. Otherwise you would all have died here. Li Lingtian said loudly as if he was a cat toying with a mouse. He told them to escape, but they knew that anyone who escaped would become the war god's target. Chapter 374 Chapter 374 The Might of a Tier 8 Gorilla Demon. Chapter 374 The Might of a Tier 8 Gorilla Demon. Boom! Li Lingtian did not wait for Kanglan House's Chong He to escape as he waved his hand. Suddenly 16 pillars appeared on the war god. These pillars were the power source of the attack. 16 pillars appeared at the same time, each of them emitting a destructive aura, giving off a sense of death. From a silver pillar in the middle, a light shadow rushed out. In an instant it covered a distance of 10 miles and fiercely bombarded the experts in Kanglan building. The crowd could only see Li Lingtian waving his hand in a sign of 2. With a loud bang, a destructive halo appeared. In the halo, hundreds of martial artists were instantly destroyed. 2 martial emperor powerhouses were also killed in the middle. Only the array masters on the war god understood the meaning of the 6. The 2 represented a type of power, the power of a 6th-rank monster beast's inner core and the offensive array. On the war god there were a total of 5 levels. The lowest level was the inner core of a 5th-rank demonic beast plus 5 magic crystals. The second level was the inner core of a 6th-rank demonic beast to activate the war god's destruction array. The highest level was the inner core of a 9th-tier demon beast plus a destructive array formation, but the later 3 levels could not be used because there were no such materials. Furthermore, Li Lingtian had already constructed an even more powerful formation that utilized the inner core of a super sacred beast as its power source. However, this was only a thought. A demonic beast like that was difficult to see, let alone obtain. Screams of pain were heard as Li Lingtian looked down with a cold gaze. 16 light shadows bombarded out continuously, like a barrage of cannons. Although none of them were as powerful as the first 2, their power was not much weaker. Moreover, even a martial emperor would not dare to withstand such power easily. A martial honor would also be killed if he was not careful. A few hundred martial monarch powerhouses would die in an instant. The light figure in the middle was specifically targeting martial emperor powerhouses. As long as a martial emperor powerhouse tried to destroy the war god, it would be wiped out immediately. Rumble! Rumble! Oh! Destructive explosions, the earth collapsed and the experts were killed like ants. The lives of the martial emperors and martial venerables who dominated the outside world were so fragile here. The experts of the Queen's Palace and Spirit Rhyme City were all stunned. What was this? It was complete destruction and slaughter. Join forces and destroy this thing. Old Man Mingsong shouted loudly. The death of Old Man Ming Xiao had driven him crazy. Now that he saw the destroyed war god, he hated Li Lingtian to the bone. Instantly, more than 10 martial emperors and hundreds of revered martial artists flew toward the war god. Hundreds of destructive attacks tore through space and bombarded the war god. The powerhouses from the Queen's Palace and Spirit Rhyme City were shocked when they saw the dozen martial emperors and hundreds of revered martial artists trying to destroy the war god. However, it was too late to stop him. Boom! Boom! Oh! Explosions rang out as hundreds of attacks arrived in front of the war god. Next time, remember that I am a holy array master. Li Lingtian said coldly, completely ignoring the destructive attacks. A destructive wave of spiritual energy appeared above the war god. All the spiritual energy in the world was directed at the war god. At the same time, the tens of thousands of arrays on the war god were activated. The defensive array neutralized all the attacks from the powerhouses. This change stunned all the fighters. They didn't expect the wargod's defense to be so strong, and its attack to be so insane. Couldn't destroy it, let alone block it. For a moment everyone was stunned. They didn't know how to deal with the war god. Your Majesty, I believe you can keep your promise. I don't want to play with you guys anymore. You're just a bunch of trash. Li Lingtian shouted in the direction of the queen with a respectful expression. Then, he looked coldly at all the experts of the House of Storms. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness, as if he was looking at a group of dead people. After he finished speaking, the war god moved in a strange manner and arrived behind the House of Storms. This time it was a pincer attack with the Queen's Palace in Spirit Rhyme City. Could it be that they want to kill us here? Even if you have the war god, you can't destroy a martial emperor. Yao Tian noticed the wargod's movement and understood that Li Lingtian was going to pincer them. He shouted out loud to warn all the powerhouses from the House of Storms. He also wanted to raise the House of Storms' morale by reminding them that although the war god was powerful, it was not destructive enough to attack revered martial artists and martial emperors above level 8. The few powerhouses that were killed at the beginning were only caught off guard for a moment. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been killed by the war god. You still don't know that you're about to die, Li Lingtian said coldly. With a flick of his divine consciousness, the space around him began to tremble. Rumble! A shocking explosion sounded. This explosion wasn't an attack from the war god, nor was it an attack from a powerhouse. Instead, it was a huge mountain falling from the sky. A destructive pressure filled the entire Spirit Rhyme City. All the martial artists felt death under this pressure. The pressure suppressed them so much that they could not even move their fingers. Even a level 4 martial monarch realm experts' cultivation was suppressed, and their bodies seemed to be imprisoned. A pitch-black mountain landed on the ground. Hundreds of experts from the House of Storms were caught off guard and crushed to death by the mountain without any screams. Instantly, dozens of martial monarch realm experts and hundreds of supreme realm experts from the House of Storms were stunned. They looked terrified as if they had seen a ghost. It was the same for the martial emperors and revered martial artists of the Queen's Palace in Spirit Rhyme City. This pressure carried demonic power, but it had supreme might. It was like a small ant in front of a giant god. Looking over, this pitch-black mountain wasn't a mountain at all. It was a 200-meter-tall demon beast. The explosive pressure directly crushed countless martial artists. 8th rank, 8th rank, 8th rank demonic beast. 8th rank demonic beast. Oh my god. This is an 8th rank demonic beast. Oh my god. 8th rank demonic beast. How can there be an 8th rank demonic beast? Oh. In an instant, countless Supreme Realm experts recognized this pitch-black giant beast and trembled. The martial emperor powerhouse's face was ashen. In front of a tier 8 demonic beast, a martial emperor was not even comparable to a laughing ant. They had never expected that there would be an 8th tier demonic beast in this place. The queen and the elders' expressions changed. This demonic beast must be Li Lingtian's. They did not expect this young man to be so talented, powerful. Now there was still the war god and an 8th rank demonic beast. An 8th rank demonic beast was equivalent to a martial saint. The difference between a martial saint and a martial emperor was like the difference between clouds and earth. Kill them all, Li Lingtian said coldly. His voice was as cold as frost and the world trembled at his words. These were the dozens of martial emperors and supreme realm experts of the House of Storms, as well as other forces that had been bribed by the House of Storms. With just one sentence he wanted to wipe out all the experts. Roar! With a roar, the black starlight arm, which was 100 meters long, swung down like a mountain range. The Supreme Realm and Martial Emperor Realm experts still had a chance to move, but the Martial Monarch Realm experts could not move at all. Under one attack, hundreds of experts were turned into ashes. Screams filled the sky as the ground continued to collapse. For demonic beasts, a strong physique was the most powerful weapon. A 200-meter-long 8th-order demonic beast was like a tiger entering a flock of sheep. Moreover, these lambs were lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Rumble. Crash. Ah-ah. Gotcha. Oh. The earth collapsed, space shattered, and screams resounded through the world. This time, they did not expect to be slaughtered. Oh. Rumble. The Wargod's light projection continued to bombard the enemies. Countless experts who used forbidden spells to escape were killed by the War God. For a moment, the number of experts on the side of the House of Storms continued to decrease and they were constantly killed. Above the Spirit City, the experts of the Queen's Palace and Spirit City were stunned when they saw this scene. After an unknown period of time, was it a minute, an hour, or a day? With the final explosion, the two god sealing chains struck the ground, and all the experts disappeared. Li Lingtian's divine consciousness activated the divine dragon ring, and the gorilla demon entered it. Looking at the gorilla demon waving the two god sealing chains in his hands, the shocking power made him excited. Previously, the god confinement chains had been severed by Li Lingtian's celestial emperor blade. There were originally 4 god confinement chains, but Li Lingtian had taken away the 2 heavens on the gorilla demon's feet. The god sealing chains in the gorilla demon's hand happened to become its weapon. The shocking power caused even martial emperor powerhouses to die unwillingly. In the beginning, there were only 6 level 6 inner cores left on the war god. Moreover, a level 6 inner core was unable to kill a martial emperor. He could only use the gorilla demon to resolve everything. The world quieted down. 100 miles in front of Spirituality City was a mess. The gorilla disappeared, and the war god floated steadily in the air. Li Lingtian watched everything below indifferently. With a flick of his divine consciousness, Little White appeared and its body flashed rapidly. She had already transformed, but she usually used her real body to cultivate in the divine dragon ring. The white figure kept flashing as she took away the storage bags one by one, along with countless weapons and treasures. In just 5 minutes, Little White returned to Li Lingtian's side and handed him a storage pouch that contained all the powerhouse's storage pouches. Whoosh! At this moment, a stream of icy and fiery chi soared into the sky from the originally quiet battlefield. A shadow appeared, and the shadow gradually condensed into a human shape. However, one side of this human figure was ice, and the other side was flames. The entire person emitted a shocking and strange aura. For a moment everyone was shocked. Under the attack of the 8th order demonic beast, they were all killed. They did not expect that there was still one person who survived. Upon seeing this human figure, countless martial monarch realm experts from the Queen's Palace and Spirit Rhyme City cried out in surprise. Their faces were filled with fear. She threw a storage bag to Shan Mei'er and shouted. The aura of a queen rushed over, and all the martial artists trembled. With a smile on his face, Li Lingtian waved his hand and a light shield protected Shan Mei'er. With his other hand, he lifted Huangfu Yuyan and Qing Ling from the city wall. By the time they landed again, Li Lingtian and the others were already on the war god. Thank you for your help, Your Majesty. I will definitely wipe out the House of Storms. I don't care what the Wind Moon Palace is like, but the Wind Spirit Prince is my brother. As long as he's here, the Azure Continent will be one of the 2 superpowers. Li Lingtian's smile remained on his face as he saluted the queen and spoke loudly. The war god also moved quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was already far away in the sky. Its speed was so fast that it was no different from a martial artist's teleportation. He knew that Her Highness the Queen had to abide by the rules of the Queen's Palace, but she did not want to swear an oath, and she did not want her daughter to be sad and lonely. That was why she had made such a decision. All the warriors understood his words. The House of Storms would definitely disappear. The Azure Continent would no longer be the 3 great superforces, but the 2 great superforces. Of the two superpowers, one was the Wind Moon Palace, and the other was the Queen's Palace. The Wind Moon Palace was not as powerful as the House of Storms. However, with the Wind Spirit Prince being Li Lingtian's brother, Li Lingtian would not go against the Wind Moon Palace based on their relationship. Otherwise, it would not be difficult for Li Lingtian to wipe out the Windy Moon Palace with his influence. A rank 8 demonic beast was like a martial saint. Without a martial saint, no matter how many martial sovereigns there were, they would only be useless. Shun Mei kept looking at Shun Yu and Shun Tianzhou until the war god left Spirit City. When she saw that Yi Xiao couldn't see anyone on the city wall, she turned around. She snuggled gently in Li Lingtian's arms. She had achieved the ending she wanted. It was just that it was too difficult for her mother and father. She did not know when she would be able to see her parents again in the future. Li Lingtian did not say anything as he gently held Shun Mei in his arms. The others tactfully returned to their rooms. After a long time, the war god stopped and hovered in the air. Then, more than 10 figures flashed and quickly landed on the war god. "Greetings, young master." "Greetings, young madam." Yi Feng and the others bowed respectfully to Li Lingtian. When they saw Shun Mei, they understood something and bowed to her as well. This bow made her blush. "How did it go?" Li Lingtian looked at Yi Feng and asked calmly. "Young master, the world crossing formation has been sealed. No one knows." Yi Feng replied respectfully. Before the battle, Li Lingtian had already prepared a set of array flags. Once the battle was over, he would seal the array altar without anyone knowing. By then, no one would be able to use the transboundary array. He didn't know why the Kanglin building had crossed over to deal with the Queen's Palace, but he knew that the Kanglin building wouldn't do anything for nothing. They definitely needed something from the Queen's Palace. "The portal can't teleport the war god. We can only fly. Keep an eye on the war god and head to the Kanglin building." After Li Lingtian said that, he brought Shun Mei and flew towards the highest floor. They arrived at the top floor and activated the restriction. Qing Ling cooperated with them, and Li Lingtian entered the restriction. Following that, Li Lingtian introduced Shun Mei to Tang Qingyue and the others. Tang Qingyue was Tang Ziming's older sister, so it was only natural for her to tell them about Shun Mei and him. "Sister Qingyue, she is Shun Mei." Li Lingtian felt awkward, but he could only brace himself for the moment. "Sister Mei is indeed beautiful. No wonder this fellow would take the risk to come and pick you up. I really don't know why you like him." Tang Qingyue was rather generous. She reached out and pulled Shun Mei over. She smiled and left Li Lingtian alone. "Greetings, Sister Blue Moon." Shun Mei did not know Tang Qingyue's identity, but since Li Lingtian was so serious, she did not want to be rude. "We sisters don't need to be so polite. You still don't know who I am, do you? I'm her fiancé's sister. Be careful in the future and keep her under control. When we go back to Green Island, he'll suffer." Tang Qingyue stared at Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian quickly turned around and did not look at the two beauties. In fact, Tang Qingyue also knew that the world was full of 3 wives and 4 concubines. Chapter 376 Chapter 376 News of the Martial God. Chapter 376 News of the Martial God. The incident at Spirit Rhyme City had already spread throughout the entire Azure continent. The House of Storms had used the Inter-Realm formation to attack the Queen's Palace in Spirit Rhyme City. Dozens of martial monarch realm experts had attacked the Queen's Palace, and with the betrayal of the Purple Jade Palace, it was supposed to be easy for them to take down the Queen's Palace. However, what was unexpected was that when the Cross-Realm Grand Array was activated, it was disturbed by a young man who robbed 10 6-tier demon beast inner cores. After that, he used the array to destroy the good thing of the Kanglin building. These were nothing. When it was time for the final battle, that young man appeared and single-handedly controlled the entire battlefield. It was this young man who was at the first level of the Supreme Realm who was actually a Holy Array Master. He also had a spaceship called the War God. It was a destructive attack. The terrifying power had killed a martial monarch realm expert before. And in the end, an 8th-tier demonic beast had appeared. 8th-rank demonic beasts were equivalent to the existence of a martial saint. This young man actually possessed an 8th-rank demonic beast. This news no one was not shocked. This young man was none other than Li Lingtian, who had wiped out the Dishi family. He did not expect that he would appear in the Queen's palace this time and even wipe out tens of thousands of experts in the Kanglin building. Dozens of martial monarch realm experts were also killed. Only the Ice/Fire ancestor managed to escape. Everyone else was wiped out. More importantly, Li Lingtian had actually taken away the Queen's palace's little princess. He also announced that the Kanglin building would be wiped out, and the war god would be heading towards the Kanglin building. In front of the world, he said that he wanted to wipe out the House of Storms. The 3 super forces of the Azure continent would become 2 super forces, and the forces would be distributed by him. All the powerhouses of the Azure continent were shocked and looked at the House of Storms. He did not know how the House of Storms could withstand Li Lingtian's attack. To be precise, they were prepared to withstand the attack of an 8th-order mystical beast. Li Lingtian was cultivating in his room. From time to time he would chat with the beauties. The spaceship flew steadily towards the Kanglin building. On this day, Li Lingtian was cultivating when Huang Fuyan walked in and sat beside him without any restraint. "Are you doubting what Forefather Icefire said?" Huang Fuyan said as she looked at Li Lingtian with her beautiful eyes. "Yes, that's right. He said that he can become a war god. It seems like it's because of the Ice and Fire martial souls. When I was in Green Island, he even sent people to Sky Dragon Empire to snatch the Ice and Fire ring. Moreover, the Ice and Fire ring and the Ice and Fire halo are with me. Although he didn't snatch the Ice and Fire ring, it seems that I've fulfilled his wish this time." Li Lingtian nodded and spoke in a serious tone. He would not give up the opportunity to improve his cultivation base. Furthermore, the martial soul cultivated by the Icefire Patriarch was exactly the same as his. Both of them had the Ice and Fire martial spirits. Since the Ice and Fire ancestor said he could become a martial god, it was because of the Ice and Fire martial spirits. The forefather had a way to become a martial god, and he wouldn't let go of this opportunity. There was another problem, and that was that the forefather was scheming against him. He's right. The Ice and Fire martial souls can indeed help you break through to the martial god realm. There's one thing you might not know. Your Ice and Fire martial spirits are also the key to breaking through to the martial god realm. HL give you a trace of the genuine vitality of a martial saint. You also have a martial spirit of the 5 elements completion. This is also a chance to break through to the martial spirit realm. Perhaps your Ice and Fire martial spirits will allow you to achieve even higher achievements, because you have the foundation of the 5 elements perfection. Huang Fuyan spoke slowly. She was experienced in cultivation and as a martial saint powerhouse from a large family clan. The books she had read were not something Li Lingtian could compare to. Moreover, she had high hopes for Li Lingtian to become a martial god. Although she had 2 martial souls, her hopes were slim. However, she wanted to see if Li Lingtian could achieve the martial god realm. "I see." Li Lingtian revealed in TC expression. Although he was the reincarnation of the Nine-Yang Saint Lord, he did not have the Nine-Yang Saint Lord's memories. Therefore, he had to start all over again and explore on his own. Now that he had Huang Fuyan, he could know more. At the very least, Huang Fuyan was once a martial saint. Not bad. Good luck. I hope you won't disappoint me. Huang Fuyan's old-fashioned tone stunned Li Lingtian as a strange smile appeared on his face. This tone is like a master and disciple. Li Lingtian looked at Huang Fuyan and chuckled. Then try calling me master. Huang Fuyan burst into laughter when she heard Li Lingtian's words. You wish. However, the relationship between the master and the disciple should be closer. After Li Lingtian finished speaking, he wrapped his hand around Huang Fuyan's slender waist and pulled her into his embrace. He then kissed her rosy lips. The next day, Huang Fuyan quickly put on her clothes and fled back to her room without caring about Li Lingtian's gaze. However, her face revealed a pained expression as she walked. Naturally, Li Lingtian knew what was wrong with Huang Fuyan. He had gone overboard yesterday. Li Lingtian did not see Huang Fuyian for the next few days. He did not ask her about it and instead focused on his cultivation. The nurturing of treasures, the strengthening of skills, and the comprehension of pill techniques and cultivation techniques could not be relaxed. The God's Array diagram was also the most important one. Moreover, the God's Array diagram had brought him countless benefits, making him like a fish in water. Naturally, he would not be so relaxed. Usually, Li Lingtian would cultivate his skills during the day and play with a few girls. He would cultivate the true dragon body barrier and heaven and earth reincarnation technique, while comprehending cultivation techniques and alchemy techniques. The days passed by leisurely. After a few days, Huang Fuyian finally came out. However, her face was flushed when she saw Li Lingtian. The girls could tell that something was amiss, but they did not voice it out. Gradually, Huang Fuyian got used to it. However, Huang Fuyian avoided Li Lingtian and was too embarrassed to face him alone. Li Lingtian did not make things difficult for Huang Fuyian. After all, it was her first time and there were other people around. Naturally, she would feel embarrassed. On this day, Li Lingtian and the others were cultivating when Yi Feng's voice came from below. Young Master, Blue Lake City is just ahead. Qiuming has sent news that the auction that happens once every 10 years will be held tomorrow. Do you want to go and take a look? Yi Feng's voice was transmitted to Li Lingtian through the crystal. 800 miles from Blue Lake City. Hide the war god. I'll go down and take a look. Li Lingtian pondered for a moment. He had been on the war god all this while and was starting to get bored. The girls around him all liked to play. Although he did not say anything, he understood that these girls wanted to go down and play. This subordinate will obey. Yi Feng's respectful voice sounded again, and then there was no more sound. Li Lingtian walked out of the room as well. When he saw the girls chatting about something, he walked up to them with a smile. Qingling, Huang Fuyian, Jishan Mayor Tankgenji, and Little White didn't cultivate either. Instead, they chatted with the girls. Little White was originally a girl. Li Lingtian did not know about it in the past, but now that she had transformed into a girl, she was also a beautiful and peerless dragon girl. Just like Ji, she was the noblest princess of her race. Big brother, Sister Genji is talking about you in Green Island. Ji pounced into Li Lingtian's arms like a little bird when she saw him coming out. She looked extremely coquettish and Li Lingtian could only caress her little face with his hand as he revealed a loving expression. Oh me? I have nothing to say. Li Lingtian smiled as he led Ji towards Tankgenji and the girls. He sat down beside Huang Fuyian and glanced at the girls. Sister Genji said that you used to be looked down upon and called a good-for-nothing. Ji pouted as she asked with a questioning look on her face, as if she was seeking confirmation from Li Lingtian. That's right, I wasn't much in the past, but I wasn't as bad as Sister Genji described. Li Lingtian sighed before he began to talk about his past. The girls were extremely excited to hear his story. This was a shocking reversal. From a nobody that everyone looked down on, he had become a dominator of Green Island. Chapter 377 Chapter 377 equals Blue Lake City. Chapter 377 equals Blue Lake City. Naturally, Li Lingtian would not reveal his past life. After all, such a secret was too important for him to reveal. Li Lingtian then smiled at the girls. Do you guys want to go down and play? Li Lingtian said with a smile. Blue Lake City was a decent big city. Since it was still too far away from the House of Storms, they could play around first before they ran out of time. Does young master not need to hurry? Qingling was startled. This time they were going to the House of Storms. She didn't know what young master meant by this. The other girls were also looking at Li Lingtian. No need. If you want to go and play, just pack up. Li Lingtian shook his head with a smile on his face. At this moment, the war god had already come to a halt. It was 100 miles away from Blue Lake City. This place was considered well hidden, so naturally, no one would notice the war god's presence. When the girls saw this, their faces immediately revealed excited smiles. There was nothing better than playing. Although there were many places to play on the war god, it was not as fun as playing on the ground. After a long time he got a little tired of it. Soon, Tang Qingyue and the others had tidied up their attire and followed Li Lingtian out of the war god before landing on the ground. The feeling of being on solid ground was different. Li Lingtian led the girls towards the city. Along the way, he attracted countless envious and jealous gazes. They were envious that Li Lingtian had 5 or 6 peerless beauties by his side. Moreover, each of them was a rare beauty in this world. However, while they were jealous of Li Lingtian, they could also see that Li Lingtian's temperament was indeed incomparable. He was elegant and had a faint smile on his face. This appearance was enough to make all the girls in the world fall for him. Soon they arrived at the gate of Blue Lake City. "Sir, you need to apply for a token to enter Blue Lake City. Each person needs 10,000 low-grade spirit stones." A Warrior King Realm patrol member was stunned by the girls beside Li Lingtian. With so many peerless beauties, they were like goddesses from the 9 heavens. All of them were peerless. He had never seen such beautiful women before. However, his heart began to tremble when he sensed Li Lingtian's aura. He could not tell the depth of Li Lingtian's cultivation base, but he must not be a simple person to be accompanied by so many beauties. Here, Li Lingtian tossed over 70,000 lower spiritual stones. It was only a few tens of thousands of spiritual stones. If he needed spirit stones, any pill would be enough. Moreover, he had nearly 800 billion spirit stones on him, so he naturally did not care about this little bit. Qingling, Huangfu Yanji Xiaobai Tang Qingyue, and Shun Meier including him made up 7 people. Very soon, the patrol member completed the application for the token and respectfully handed it to Li Lingtian. He watched in amazement as the group entered the city. Li Lingtian found an inn in a beautiful place in Blue Lake City. It had a single courtyard and only 6 rooms for 7 people. Ji Xiaobai and the rest quickly found a room, leaving Li Lingtian alone outside. Li Lingtian did not say anything. Instead, he meditated and rested in the garden of the small courtyard. Naturally, he wasn't worried about not having a place to stay. He could enter Shun Meier, Qingling, Huangfu Yuyan, and even Little White's rooms. Except for Ji and Tang Qingyue, he wouldn't go. He could go and live with them anywhere else. After the girls chose their rooms, they came out. Seeing that Li Lingtian was cultivating, they did not disturb him. It was not until the afternoon when Li Lingtian finished his cultivation that he left the inn with the 6 of them and headed towards the bustling city. Oh. Since they wanted to play, they naturally had to play in the most fun places. In a big city like Blue Lake City, there were naturally many places to play. In a place like the Azure Continent, he really wasn't afraid of anything. With his current reputation, others were all avoiding him. Who else would provoke them? Wasn't that courting death? Oh. He had wiped out the Dishi family, one of the top 10 families in the Azure Continent, and killed dozens of experts from the House of Storms, one of the 3 super forces. The Queen's Palace was now on his side. There was also the Wind Moon Palace's Wind Spirit Prince, who was Li Lingtian's brother. With Li Lingtian's current strength and the level 8 mystical beast, no one in the Azure Continent would dare to provoke him. On the streets, a few girls were chattering away. They wanted to buy any pretty accessories they saw. Li Lingtian could only buy from behind and pay with spiritual stones. Countless warriors were amazed by the group of peerless beauties, but no one dared to provoke them. They all understood that with so many beautiful women together, it was definitely not simple. After a day, Li Lingtian's storage pouch was filled with a huge pile of items. He thought to himself that if he had a storage bag in his previous life, he wouldn't be so tired when shopping. At least now the girls had bought a lot of things. After putting them into the storage bag, there was no weight left. However, he did not understand why girls like to shop, be it in his previous life or this life. After returning to the inn, the girls cleaned up their spoils of war and quickly returned to their rooms. Li Lingtian was still meditating and resting outside. When night fell, he looked at the sky and smiled faintly. He stood up and walked towards Huangfu Yuyan's room. The next morning, the 2 of them woke up very late. The other girls were already awake. Initially, they were curious about Li Lingtian's whereabouts, but they realized that only Huang Fuyian and Li Lingtian were still asleep. They all knew that Li Lingtian had stayed in Huang Fuyian's room last night. When Huang Fuyian came out, the 5 girls looked over at the same time. Immediately, Huang Fuyian wished she could find a hole to hide in. Her face flushed red. She knew that she could not explain herself even if she wanted to. Furthermore, Li Lingtian had walked out from behind. "What are you looking at?" Li Lingtian coughed softly when he saw the awkward situation. He then spoke in a serious tone and quickly dragged Huang Fuyian to the washroom. Immediately, the laughter from behind made Huang Fuyian's heart tremble. "It's all your fault." When Huang Fuyian arrived at the washroom, there was no one else around. She glared at Li Lingtian fiercely, but when she saw Li Lingtian looking at her, she remembered how crazy she was that night and how she kept demanding. She felt even more embarrassed. "Ignore them." Li Lingtian stopped laughing at her and began to wash up. Huang Fuyian was really too shy. If he continued to laugh at her, she would definitely feel even more embarrassed. Very soon Huang Fuyian also calmed down. "It's nothing. I'm his woman." After making up her mind, Huang Fuyian said to herself. She quickly washed up and followed Li Lingtian out. Tang Qingyue and the others were still meditating in the courtyard. When she went out, no one paid any attention to her. Then they began to cultivate. Morning was the best time to cultivate, so they naturally would not let go of this time to cultivate. Li Lingtian was pleased to see the girls cultivating earnestly. A day passed quickly. Yifeng had also finished arranging the auction house. Money could make the world go round. At night, Li Lingtian brought Tang Qingyue and the others to the auction house. After flashing their tokens, a maid led Li Lingtian and the others to a private room on the 2nd floor. No matter where it was, the auction house would have its own level of treatment. The higher the net worth, the higher the cultivation, and the higher the status, the better the treatment they would receive. The private room Li Lingtian was currently in was bought by Yifeng for 5 million spirit stones. He knew that Li Lingtian was not lacking in spiritual stones, and he had a few ladies by his side. Naturally, he would not leave these beautiful ladies alone. If he did, he would be courting death. After entering the private room, a few girls sat on the leather sofa, excitedly waiting for the auction to begin. Li Lingtian also took out a large pile of 100-year and 1,000-year-old spiritual fruits from his divine dragon ring. The girls chattered non-stop as they enjoyed the fruits. Fortunately, this private room had soundproofing effects. Otherwise, the entire auction hall would have been in chaos. Chapter 378 Chapter 378 Yuhua hidden in the river painting. Chapter 378 Yuhua hidden in the river painting. "I wonder what's fun today," Ji chattered. She was the happiest when the girls were together, because she knew that these girls were all related to her big brother, and they were very close. She did not know anything in the past, but after following Li Lingtian, he had taught her many things. Now that she had a few sisters with her, she was naturally delighted. This is an auction house, not a place to play. A smile appeared on Tang Qingyue's face. She was slightly older than Ji, and she was speechless when she saw how fun Ji was. This place was a place where experts competed for treasures. He did not expect his sister to treat it as a fun place. "It's fun to compete in the auction house." Shun Mayer also spoke. She was similar to Ji, a playful person. "If there's anything fun, we can buy it. By the way, when the competition starts, each of us can have one shot." Xiaobai also joined in. How could she miss out on such fun things? Li Lingtian looked at the girls and did not say a word. He only smiled faintly. Fortunately, he was wealthy, or he would not be able to match up to these beautiful girls. However, thinking about it, if he did not have strong strength, he would naturally not be able to protect these beauties, nor would he have a strong family background. As he enjoyed the spiritual fruit, he watched the girls chattering happily. This was also the first time Li Lingtian had brought them to the auction house. Naturally, they were extremely excited. When the time comes, don't worry about not having any spirit stones. This guy is really rich. Last time, Qingling got an accessory worth hundreds of millions. Huang Fuyin thought of the auction house and glanced at the accessory on Qingling's head. This accessory was worth 600 million and she was extremely envious of it back then. However, Li Lingtian had teased her. As she spoke, she pointed at the accessory on Qingling's head. The other girls all looked at the jade hairpin on Qingling's head. Wow, what a beautiful hairpin. This hairpin costs 600 million spirit stones. If there's a beautiful one, I want one too. Lingtian, you are really generous. However, a little beauty like Qingling would naturally look even more beautiful with such a hairpin. Immediately, a few girls looked at the hairpin on Qingling's head with envy and chattered non-stop. When girls saw beautiful accessories, they were all excited. They naturally liked beautiful things. Li Lingtian could only nod. He was not lacking in spiritual stones, but the main thing was that this auction house needed to have something beautiful. Moreover, the items sold in the auction house were all super weapons. For example, the jade hairpin on Qingling's head was also an extremely rare weapon. Time gradually passed as the girls laughed. The auction house was also full of people. Li Lingtian peeked through the window screen and saw that the auction house could seat about 1,000 people. However, there were many chairs added on both sides. These chairs were probably added on the spot. There were more than 1,000 powerhouses, and all of them were martial emperors and martial venerables. Moreover, there were 3 martial emperor powerhouses. However, the 3 martial monarch realm experts kept a low profile. If it were not for Li Lingtian's divine soul eye, he would not have been able to discern the 3 martial monarch realm experts' cultivation base. It seemed like there must be quite a number of good treasures to be able to attract 3 martial emperor powerhouses. The eyes of martial emperor powerhouses were very sharp. Ordinary trash would not even enter their eyes. Welcome to the treasure gathering auction house. I'm Blue River, the host of this auction. Seeing that all the martial artists participating in the auction had arrived, the door of the auction house slowly closed. After waiting for 2 minutes, a step slowly rose from the ground at the front of the auction house. The steps were 5 meters high. An old man who was about 50 years old walked up the steps with a greedy smile on his face. He cupped his fists and greeted the experts in the auction hall. Everyone knows the rules of the auction house. The highest bidder wins and fights are strictly enforced. There won't be any fake or inferior items in the auction house. Please rest assured. Moreover, the origin of the items in the auction house has been erased. There's no need to worry. Today is the once-in-a-decade auction. The first 5 items have been auctioned, and there will be 2 hours of free trading. The last 5 items have been auctioned, and the auction has come to an end. Blue River said loudly. His face was smooth and slick. He was completely like a businessman. He had nothing to do with experts. No matter how one looked at him, he didn't look like an expert at all. However, Li Lingtian knew that Blue River was definitely a powerhouse. He was a super powerhouse, a 6th heaven martial honor. Under such circumstances, if one's cultivation was low, they would not have the courage to host the auction here. Although there were no fights in the auction house, there was a natural suppression between martial artists due to the difference in their levels. No matter what, a martial honor would feel a huge pressure in front of a martial emperor. A martial emperor would also feel the same pressure in front of a martial honor. Today's first item is a low-grade saint artifact, the river hiding jade painting. It's a treasure used by a water martial spirit expert. It can increase a warrior's strength by 30% during a battle. After Blue River finished speaking, he opened a brocade box. In the middle of the box was a scroll. The scroll slowly opened, and suddenly a shocking amount of water element spiritual energy surged out. This spiritual energy seemed calm, but everyone understood that if a fighter's true essence was added, the power it displayed would be earth-shattering. Saint Artifact. The first auction item is a Saint low-grade artifact. Isn't this too heaven-defying? That's right. Don't tell me that there will be a peerless Saint weapon at that time? The auction this time is really beyond imagination. Countless experts were shocked when they saw the Jade River portrait. The first item was actually a saint artifact. They wondered what other heaven-defying treasures were behind it. Li Lingtian and the others were also shocked in the private room. The sacred weapons were nothing to them because they all had them. But in this auction house, the first item was actually a saint artifact. It was still beyond their imagination. This way, the anticipation for this auction was even greater. If they could obtain precious treasures inside, it would be even more perfect. Although the Yuhua River hiding portrait was a saint artifact, they didn't need it. The power of a low-grade saint artifact was only so much. Although one more saint artifact meant one more strength, if one didn't control the saint artifact well, the power of the saint artifact wouldn't be much. Moreover, competing with these experts would cost them a large number of spirit stones, but they would not obtain much practical benefits. Naturally, they would not do such a thing. What other treasures are there? Please look forward to it. The starting bid for this river-hidden jade painting is 2 million. Each bid must be at least 10 million. Blue River laughed and then made a gesture to increase the price. He was responsible for selling this treasure, but the final increase would depend on the martial artist's wealth and his eloquence. 110 million low-grade spirit stones. 120 million low-grade spirit stones. 130 million low-grade spirit stones. 140 million low-grade spirit stones. After Blue River finished speaking, the competition started. Here, all the experts were martial emperors and above. They had come to participate in this auction, so which one of them didn't have hundreds of millions? Moreover, although the price of a saint artifact was high, this saint artifact was priceless. In an instant, the price soared and the competition was fierce. It was the first time Li Lingtian had seen such intense competition. He had participated in auctions before, but the intensity of the competition was far less than the competition now. The main reason was that there were too many experts here, and their wealth was not small. More importantly, this was a saint artifact. Big brother, is this saint artifact really that good? It's not even as powerful as the wood spirit sword in my hand. The competition is actually so intense. Ji looked at Li Lingtian in confusion when she saw the intense competition below. Her expression rendered the other girls speechless. If other experts heard this, it would be strange if they did not vomit blood. The sacred artifacts that others competed for were nothing to Li Lingtian. Furthermore, he had plenty of heaven artifacts and imperial artifacts in his divine dragon ring. Do you think all warriors are called Li Lingtian? Not all warriors are called Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian chuckled. In front of these girls, he did not need to restrain himself or care about his image. It would be too tiring if he had to worry about his image every day. Besides, these girls were his men and he did not have to worry about his image. Besides, they knew Li Lingtian's personality in front of these girls. However, Tang Qingyue and the others still glanced at him after he finished speaking. Do any of you like this Jade River painting? Li Lingtian casually asked. There was nothing good about this sacred artifact, but if Tang Qingyue and the others liked it, he would not mind buying it. Competing with him was simply asking for a beating. I don't like this. I don't like it either. With Big Brother here, the saint artifact is useless in our hands. That's right. Young Master is indeed powerful. He isn't even afraid of a martial supreme. We'll only be stirring up trouble if we have a saint weapon. The girls did not like the sacred weapon, which stunned Li Lingtian. However, the girls were right. With him around, there was naturally no need for a saint artifact. Naturally, the war god, gorilla demon, and Longda did not have the chance to make a move. At that thought, Li Lingtian wanted to find an opportunity to train Tang Qingyue and the others. 4. 9 billion low-grade spirit stones. 5 billion low-grade spirit stones. 5. 1 billion low-grade spirit stones. In just a few words, the price in the auction house had reached 5 billion. Moreover, the subsequent bids were all in the hundreds of millions, not the tens of millions. However, the contenders were all martial honors, martial emperors and martial emperors. They did not raise the price because they knew that there would be even more powerful treasures appearing later. It was not worth it to waste spirit stones here. Chapter 379 Chapter 379 9 Heavens and 10 Earthly Divine Needles. Chapter 379 9 Heavens and 10 Earthly Divine Needles. The price of the low-grade saint artifact, the Yuhua River painting, stopped at 9 billion low-grade spirit stones. It was obtained by a 7th-level martial honored realm expert. This 7th-level martial honored realm expert actually had a wood-type martial soul. The fact that the wood-type martial soul was competing for the treasure of the water-type martial soul had angered countless experts. However, the highest bidder would win the item in the auction house. Moreover, fighting was not allowed. They could only watch helplessly as the water-type weapon was won by the wood-type expert. Li Lingtian looked down with a faint smile on his face. With his divine soul's eye, he could tell the true martial soul of this wood-type powerhouse. He was a water-wood dual-element expert. Moreover, the water element was his main martial soul, while the wood element was only a supporting one. Revealing the wood element martial soul was only to hide his identity and cultivation. The first item has been auctioned off. Congratulations to number 33 for obtaining the Jade River painting. Next, let's bid for the second item. The second item is... Blue River had a smile on his face. Buying the first holy artifact for that price was reasonable, because in the auction house no one could control the price. Usually, an item worth 10,000 spirit stones could be auctioned off for 100,000 or 1 million spirit stones. Sometimes an item worth 1 million spirit stones would be sold off or someone else would buy it at the base price. When Blue River mentioned the second item, he stopped and revealed a smile. He kept the experts below in suspense and took out a brocade box. The brocade box emitted a faint killing intent. The killing intent came from an item and not from an expert. Upon realizing this, all the experts were shocked. An item that could emit killing intent was definitely not simple. Blue River didn't waste any time. He slowly circulated his true chi and took out the items from the box. Seeing the items in the box, all the experts were stunned. In front of Blue River were 18 extremely fine needles. The needles were only an inch long, but there was a connection behind them. No one could see what was behind them. 9 Heavens 10 Earth's Divine Needles. It was unknown who had cried out in alarm and shouted out the origin of this thin needle. However, Li Lingtian noticed that the powerhouse who had shouted out the origin of the needle was one of the 3 martial supreme realm experts present. If even a martial emperor was so shocked, one could imagine the origin of this thin needle. Instantly, all the experts were shocked. At first, they did not recognize the origin of this thin needle, but when they heard the origin of this thin needle, they were all shocked. Could it be the 9 Heavens 10 Earth's divine needles that have been passed down from ancient times? This is a high-grade saint weapon. Every divine formation is a saint weapon. The power of the 9 Heavens 10 Earth's divine needles far exceeds the power of a saint weapon. Can kill people without them noticing. I didn't expect the 9 Heavens and 10 Earth's divine needles to appear here. Is it really this treasure? The 9 Heavens 10 Earth's divine needles that disappeared for tens of thousands of years have appeared again. For a moment the auction hall was in an uproar. The first item was a saint weapon, and the second item was the 9 Heavens 10 Earth's divine needle that had been passed down from ancient times. Li Lingtian was equally astonished. He had heard of the 9 Heavens 10 Earth's divine needle before. It was forged by an ancient mighty figure. It almost ignored the martial artist's defense and killed without a trace. Oh. Moreover, there were a total of 18 divine needles. 18 of them were a set of treasures. When he used them, the 18 divine needles flew, making it impossible for people to guard against them. Each divine needle had a thin thread forged from heavenly silk. Almost no one within 5 kilometers could escape the divine needle's annihilation. Their attacks were invisible and soundless, and even super experts could not discover them. It was just that he came from the 21st century, and using needles as his trump card always felt a little awkward, just like Invincible East. Which one of you needs this 9 Heavens 10 Earth's divine needle? Li Lingtian looked at Tang Qingyue and the others. Only girls would use this godly needle. It was more convenient and normal. It also added a graceful grace to the girls. If Tang Qingyue and the others were to launch a sneak attack on him during a battle, it would definitely be a powerful trump card. Tang Qingyue and the others exchanged glances after he finished speaking. They could naturally tell that Li Lingtian wanted to take down the divine needle. However, it was inconvenient for Li Lingtian to use it so they could use it. However, they did not want to fight over it for fear of ruining the peace. Moreover, they believed that even if they did not want to use weapons, they would not have the slightest chance to fight with Li Lingtian around. I want this divine needle. Shun Meier finally spoke. She was already Li Lingtian's woman, and had even cultivated dual cultivation with him. Naturally, she knew Li Lingtian's intentions. He wanted her to help him during the battle with the woman who used the divine needle. After Shun Meier spoke, the other girls all revealed envious looks. Then let's help Sister Meier compete. Each of us will bid once. Alright. This is so fun. Hee hee. Hee hee. Instantly, the girls were extremely excited. Using spirit stones to suppress experts was a kind of soft power suppression, which made those experts feel even more helpless. The feeling of not being able to use one's strength was the most uncomfortable, and it was the same in the auction house. While they were talking, Blue River had already introduced the 9 Heavens 10 Earthly Divine Needles. The starting price of this 9 Heavens 10 Earthly Divine Needles is 500 million, and each increase is 10 million. Blue River put away the 9 Sky 10 Earth God Needles and made an inviting gesture, letting the experts below compete. He was also excited because this auction was definitely the strongest lineup he had ever seen in his life because the treasures were all extremely powerful. 600 million. After Blue River said that, the first person to raise the bid was a 7th level Martial Honored Realm expert. He directly raised the bid by 600 million. He didn't raise the bid according to the low level. 700 million. 800 million. 900 million. In an instant, the price soared rapidly, reaching 10 billion in a moment. This price was far from the price of the 9 Heavens 10 Earthly Divine Needles. Just the difference between a high-grade saint artifact and a low-grade saint artifact was like heaven and earth, let alone a treasure that had been passed down from ancient times. At this moment, Tang Qingyue and the others looked at each other. They were the first to speak to Huang Fuyuyan because she was the most important person here. 20 billion. Huang Fuyuyan and the others knew that Li Lingtian had hundreds of billions of spiritual stones. Naturally, they did not care about this little bit. Moreover, they were still harboring a vengeful mentality because Li Lingtian had tricked her previously. After he shouted out the price, he shot Li Lingtian a threatening look. However, he only received a faint smile from Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian did not care about such a thing at all. This woman was his woman now. He just needed to be happy. 20 billion. All the warriors exclaimed. Although 200 was not the price of this treasure, this price was too arrogant. It directly doubled the price by 10 billion spirit stones. 21 billion. 22 billion. 23 billion. Oh! Although the shock was great, it still could not stop the experts from competing for the 9 Heavens 10 Earth's Divine Needles. The competition began again. Oh! At that moment, Tang Qingyue nodded at the girls and shot a probing glance at Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian gave her an encouraging look. 30 billion. Tang Qingyue was bigger than Li Lingtian and younger than Huang Fuyuyan. Naturally, she was the second to bid. Similarly, he learned from Huang Fuyuyan and increased the price by nearly 10 billion, directly raising the price to 30 billion. When the bid of 30 billion was announced, all the powerhouses were shocked as they turned to look at the private room where Li Lingtian and the others were. The previous bid was still acceptable, but this private room did not last long before the bid was raised to 30 billion. It was a little too arrogant to describe it. In the middle, only 5 or 6 people raised the price. The people in the private room raised the price to 30 billion. The experts here were all martial emperors and above. Naturally, they could hear that there was more than one person bidding in the private room. The two voices were as clear and sweet as the sounds of nature, but this voice made people tremble and feel oppressed. Sigh 31 billion. I bid 31 billion. 32 billion. Oh. Several Ninth Heaven Martial Honored Realm experts were determined to get this high-grade holy weapon, but the price was too high. They didn't know what treasures were behind it, but regardless of whether there was a Supreme Saint artifact or an even better treasure, they didn't want to give up on the 9 Heavens 10 Earths divine needle because it didn't have any attributes and was passed down from ancient times. 40 billion. Whitey shouted 40 billion, and the crowd fell silent. However, a martial emperor had raised the price. The martial honored realm expert was already in despair. This was 40 billion, not 4 million. 50 billion. G was anxious. The martial monarch realm experts below had just bid. But G had already raised the price to 50 billion. This crushing effect made the experts below speechless and extremely shocked. In the private room above, the voice of each bid was different. Although it was a sweet voice, the experts below could tell that it was definitely not the same person. They all felt that the people in the private room were completely playing around, treating the competition in the auction as a game. 60 billion. In the end, Qingling's face was a little unnatural. This price had already reached such a terrifying level, so she was still a little afraid. However, when she saw the smile on Li Lingtian's face, she felt a little relieved because Li Lingtian did not care at all. Hush! When the final bid of 60 billion appeared, the entire auction hall was in an uproar. 60 billion floating out like a game. This was too crazy and overbearing. All the powerhouses were looking at the private room where Li Lingtian and the others were on the second floor. They wanted to know who this person was to play around with the 9 Heavens 10 Earthly Godly Needles. 60 billion low-grade spirit stones going once. Is there anyone else who wants to raise the price? Blue River's heart couldn't help but tremble. Although he had bid for a higher price before, he had never encountered such a domineering competition. He was also shocked. Seeing that no one else was bidding, he asked the other experts. Chapter 380 Chapter 380. 60 billion. Chapter 380 60 billion. After Blue River asked, he didn't see anyone increase the bid. 60 billion low-grade spirit stones going twice. 60 billion low-grade spirit stones going thrice. Congratulations to the person in private room number 9 on the second floor for obtaining the 9 Heaven and 10 Earth divine needles. Blue River's voice wasn't loud, but everyone could hear it. After confirming that this high-quality holy artifact had a new owner, all the experts looked at the second floor. Many experts with malicious intentions flashed a sharp and cold light in their eyes. Fighting was not allowed in the auction hall, but as long as the people in the private room left the auction hall, they could snatch the Saint artifact. This way, he could get the Saint artifact without spending tens of billions of spirit stones. Afterwards, Blue River had a maid bring the box to the private room on the second floor. When she arrived at Li Lingtian's private room, she gently knocked on the door. Upon entering, she was surprised to see 6 peerless beauties of all ages. The maids were not bad either, but compared to these peerless beauties, they were like fireflies in the brilliance of the moon. Seeing these peerless beauties, the maidservant did not know who to send this saint weapon to. Hand it over, Shunmeier said. Her face was so charming and pure that it made people's hearts tremble. They were the ones who bought the 9 Heavens 10 Earths godly needles. Now that he had the godly needles, he could help Li Lingtian. When the maid heard someone speak, she respectfully handed the divine needle to Shunmeier. She received the needle and without even looking at it, she handed the brocade box to Li Lingtian while her delicate body snuggled up to him. Yes, this is indeed the 9 Heavens and 10 Earths divine needles. If you control her, your strength will be able to rise to another level. Li Lingtian checked it and spoke gently with a faint smile on his face. Apart from Li Lingtian, Shunmeier's cultivation base was the strongest among them. She had already reached the martial emperor realm. The sacred weapon could barely be used now. Since both of them were dual cultivators, they could help Li Lingtian. Thank you, husband. Pow! When Shun Mei saw the divine needle in the brocade box and felt Li Lingtian's gentleness toward her, she felt a sweet feeling in her heart. She softly called out to her husband before she planted a kiss on Li Lingtian's cheek with her rosy lips. Then, her little face turned red and she did not dare to raise her head. In the past, when they were alone, she was very casual. However, now that she had other sisters by her side, it was the first time she addressed Li Lingtian as her husband in front of them. Tang Qingyue and the others burst into laughter and looked at Shun Mei. 60 billion. Li Lingtian reached out with one hand and activated the divine dragon ring. Activating his divine consciousness, he took out 60 billion lower spiritual stones from the ring and handed them to the maid, who quickly counted them. After 2 minutes, he finished counting and left respectfully. He looked at Shun Mei and the other girls with envy. "You're not shy at all. You're showing off your love in front of us now." A smile appeared on Huang Fuyian's face as she looked at Shun Mei with her beautiful eyes. She knew that her life belonged to Li Lingtian, so it was normal for her to have a few more sisters. When a warrior cultivated, they would often go into seclusion for days or even months. Naturally, Li Lingtian needed someone to accompany him. Moreover, his sisters were all peerless beauties. This way, he felt more at ease because these sisters were all peerless beauties who loved Li Lingtian deeply. However, at this moment, she naturally wouldn't let go of the opportunity to tease Shun Mei. After she finished speaking, the other girls also started laughing. "Sister Yuan, don't laugh at me. You were with your husband last night." At first, Shun Mei was extremely shy. However, when she thought of Li Lingtian in Huang Fuyian's room last night, she decided to retaliate. "Yes, Sister Yuan, you and my big brother stayed in the same room yesterday. Yeah, we all saw it." The girls immediately turned their attention to Huang Fuyian, completely forgetting that their real opponent was Shun Mei. "You guys were talking about Mei. Look in the right direction." Huang Fuyian was rendered speechless. She could not deny that Li Lingtian was caught red-handed in her room the night before. However, she quickly reminded Tang Qingyue and the others to shift their target to Shun Mei. Li Lingtian was left in the lurch as he continued to enjoy the spirit fruit while watching the few beautiful ladies fooling around. In front of him, these peerless beauties had no qualms. Next, in the auction house, the third item was auctioned, the fourth item was auctioned, and the fifth item was auctioned. He didn't let go of any of them because this auction wasn't simple. He naturally wouldn't miss it. The girls were playing, but he was paying attention to the situation below. However, the last 3 items were also mediocre superior saint artifacts. They were still slightly inferior to the 9 heavens 10 earthly godly needles, but that was what Li Lingtian thought. However, in the eyes of other experts, the last 3 items were stronger than the 9 heavens 10 earthly divine needles because the most suitable treasure was the best. The first 5 items have been successfully auctioned off. Now is the time for free trading. After the 5th item was sold, Blue River loudly announced that this was a truly great harvest. The free trade time is 2 hours. Free trade. Any problems with the quality and price have nothing to do with the auction house. However, the auction house can provide free item appraisal. "I wish everyone a fruitful return," Blue River said seriously. After he finished speaking, he left the stairs and walked towards a stone door in front of the auction house. When Blue River left, a huge stone door appeared at the side of the auction house. All the warriors walked towards the door. Most of the warriors had expectant expressions because their main goal was still to trade freely. Free trading was the goal of most martial artists because there were basically only 10 items in each auction. There were indeed no chances for hundreds or thousands of people to compete for 10 items. Moreover, those who were not rich enough could only watch the show. "Aren't you going to take a look at free trade?" Huang Fuyian asked Li Lingtian as she watched the other warriors enter the free trade center. Free trade. Although there were no good treasures, there was a chance that he could find something good in the free trade. However, the chances of this happening were very small. "Do you guys want to go and play? If you do, I'll bring you guys." Upon hearing Huang Fuyian's words, Li Lingtian looked at her with a questioning gaze. He was not in the mood to stroll around this place. He might as well rest here. However, if Tang Qingyue and the others wanted to go shopping, he would follow them. It wasn't easy to be a flower protector. These girls were all exceptionally beautiful. Any one of them would arouse the evil thoughts of countless experts. He had to protect them well. I want to play. I want to go too. Let's go and take a look. There might be some treasures. These are all martial honors and martial emperors. As soon as Li Lingtian finished speaking, Ji requested to go play. The other girls did the same. In an instant, all 6 girls wanted to go to the free trade area to play. They had plenty of spirit stones, so they naturally had to take a look. If there was anything good, they would buy it. Then let's go. Li Lingtian stood up as Ji and Shun Mei'er hugged his arms. Their proud breasts rubbed against Li Lingtian's arms, and Li Lingtian was immersed in this wonderful bliss. The group left the private room and walked towards the free trade area. Soon they arrived at the free trade area. This auction house was similar to other auction houses. The free trade area was like a vegetable market. Although the market was like this, very few experts would go to the market to trade. Not to mention the quality, there weren't any good items. There was no guarantee at all. Rainflower stone, one of the materials used to refine heaven artifacts. It's only worth 1 million low-grade spirit stones. 500,000 low-grade spirit stones, and this piece of 1,000-year-old cold iron can be taken away. This 10,000-year-old medicinal herb is the main ingredient for refining a Tier 6 medicinal pill. It costs at least 500,000 low-grade spirit stones. Do you want it? 450,000 low-grade spirit stones. Come and take a look. There's a flame talisman here. It only costs 600,000 low-grade spirit stones. When the group arrived at the free trade area, they heard the sound of peddlers. If it weren't for the super experts who knew about these people, they would have treated this place as a market. Li Lingtian was no longer surprised by this. On the other hand, Ji and Tang Qingyue were extremely interested. Huang Fuyan had seen too many of them and was not surprised at all. Big brother, I'll go take a look at that. It's very pretty. I want it. Husband, take your time. I'll go with Ji. Ji and Shun Mei'er let go of Li Lingtian's arm and walked forward. As they walked, they looked around to see if there was anything they liked. Li Lingtian felt a lot more relaxed after the 2 little beauties left. His powerful and arrogant breasts rubbed against his arm, causing his blood to boil. If this was not an auction house, he would have killed Shun Mei'er on the spot. They hadn't seen each other for more than a year. Ever since the last time they had fun, they hadn't had any physical contact. It seemed that he had to go to Shun Mei'er's room tonight. Li Lingtian thought to himself as he looked at Shun Mei'er's dainty body. He could not help but feel a burning sensation in his heart. Shun Mei'er was the only person in the world who had a perfect combination of charm and innocence. Such a temptation would drive any man crazy. Naturally, Li Lingtian could not resist it either. These 2 girls. Huang Fuyan said with a smile as she watched Yi and Shun Mei'er leave. Speaking of which, she didn't have the slightest bit of knowledge and was still like a little girl. When she had free time, Huang Fuyan naturally hugged Li Lingtian's arm. Her firm and proud chest clamped Li Lingtian's arm, causing Li Lingtian's entire body to heat up. He felt depressed. Wasn't this a temptation? If they were in his shoes, he would definitely eat them up. Chapter 381 Chapter 381 Tier 7 Inner Core. Chapter 381 Tier 7 Inner Core. The few of them strolled around the trading ground. Their eyes and divine senses swept around, but they did not encounter any good treasures. Although the people here were all martial emperors and martial supremacies, Li Lingtian and the rest had high standards. Naturally, they looked down on items below the level of a holy weapon. Unless there were some heaven-defying materials or something that a few girls liked, they would not be able to find what they wanted here. Countless super experts looked at Tang Qingyue and the others in amazement. Every single one of them was a peerless beauty in the world, and it was difficult to find a second one. Now, 6 of them had appeared all at once, and all 6 of them were surrounding a young man. It was extremely enviable. However, these powerhouses had eyes and knew that they could not afford to offend some people. Even if they did not know Li Lingtian's identity, someone with such a peerless beauty by his side must have a powerful backer. How about exchanging these 4 7th-rank monster beast inner cores for your great cyclic pellet? The few of them walked while looking. Although they didn't see anything they liked, they were still very happy because they weren't here to find treasures. They were just here to relax. If he met something he liked, he would buy it. If he didn't, he wouldn't take it seriously. At that moment, Li Lingtian's face cracked into a smile. The 2 martial emperor powerhouses were trading, yet they did not know what kind of treasure they were trading. The items traded by martial emperors were all very precious. He had never seen a martial emperor trade before. Soon he brought Huang Fuyan and the others to the 2 martial monarch realm experts. He saw that in front of one of the martial monarch realm experts were 4 inner cores with powerful demonic power. There was also the level 7 great cyclic pellet and 4 level 7 monster cores in the hands of another martial emperor. If they were used on the war god, they would be comparable to an ordinary martial emperor powerhouse. Moreover, there were 4 of them. Li Lingtian had already started calculating in his heart. He still had 3 great cyclic pellets in his hands. He could not use the great cyclic pellets with his cultivation. Unless he reached the 3rd level of the martial honored realm, he would not dare to take the risk. Now that he had encountered 4 7th-order monster beast inner cores, he naturally had to exchange for them. He could refine pills in the future, but he had to obtain the inner core first. This way he could use the war god to kill powerful opponents when he encountered them. For 7th grade inner cores are indeed not bad, but it's still a little lacking to exchange for a great cyclic pellet. I have a great cyclic pellet here, but I'll have to add 100 million low-grade spirit stones. As Li Lingtian said this, the 2 martial emperors turned to look at Li Lingtian. The martial emperor powerhouse's eyes were sharp and Li Lingtian felt a chill run down his spine. However, he quickly calmed down. The 2 martial monarch realm experts in front of him were only at the 1st level of the martial monarch realm. He had killed a level 1 martial monarch realm expert before, even though he had used the war god. Junior, are there any rules? We're the ones making the deal. What are you participating in? Are you qualified? When Nanmingui saw that someone had come to ruin his plans, especially when it was a level 1 revered martial artist, he was infuriated. He then unleashed his powerful aura at Li Lingtian. His gaze shifted to the girls beside Li Lingtian as a greedy and obscene smile appeared on his face. When a martial emperor saw such a peerless beauty, he was naturally tempted. A martial honor actually had a few peerless beauties accompanying him. He had never seen such beauties before. He immediately felt indignant and greedy. For 7th grade inner cores for a 7th grade great cyclic pellet is already good enough. You want to add 1 billion? Junior, you're dreaming. How about adding 300 million? Pingyu was excited when he saw Li Lingtian holding a recover pill. Nanmingui was not easy to deal with, but it was easy for him to deal with a junior. No matter what, this junior was not as cunning as a martial monarch realm expert of the same rank. In Nanminghui's hands, wanting to use 4 tier 7 inner cores to exchange for the great cyclic pellet was naturally not possible. Forget about adding 1 billion, even 2 billion was not enough. Alright, for 7th order monster beast inner cores and 300 million lower spiritual stones. Deal. Li Lingtian nodded and dismissed the martial emperor. As for Nanmingui, he could naturally deal with him alone. After saying that, he threw the great cyclic pellet over. The 2 of them started to trade, leaving Nanminghui at the side. When he saw Li Lingtian exchange the great cyclic pellet for the demonic beast inner core, he was infuriated and wished he could tear Li Lingtian apart immediately. Soon the transaction was completed. Pingyu took the recover pill and left. He knew that Nanminghui would not let this revered martial artist go. He did not want to cause trouble here, so he quickly left this place. Junior, you are courting death. Nanminghui was furious. He could not care less about the fact that they were in an auction house as his aura burst forth once again. The two auras before and after him were added to Li Lingtian's body. He was surprised that the first wave of aura did not suppress Li Lingtian, and that Li Lingtian was still able to trade freely. However, the second wave of aura was not something the first could compare to. Oomph! Scram! Li Lingtian's face turned frosty when he saw Ping Yu leave. He was courting death by looking at his woman with such a gaze. The aura of his entire body erupted as well. He circulated his dragon energy, and a faint dragon energy collided with Nan Minghui's aura. Boom! With an explosion, a powerful force erupted from the entire Free Trade Center. Li Lingtian's body swayed, but Nan Minghui could not help but take 2 steps back. His face was filled with shock as if he had seen a ghost. He was a martial emperor, so it would definitely be easy for him to suppress a martial honor with his powerful aura. However, he did not expect to be defeated by a martial honor's aura. If he was defeated by a martial honor in front of so many people, what face would he have left? Putting aside his face, this Supreme Realm expert was too terrifying. Scram, do you want me to say it a second time? Li Lingtian said coldly. He did not want to cause trouble in this place. If the martial emperor did not leave, he would not mind having a big fight here. In any case, he had never really fought a martial emperor before. It was not a bad thing to have a big battle now. As he spoke, he slowly retracted his aura and looked at Nan Minghui coldly. Humph, you're courting death. Nan Minghui saw that all the experts were looking at him. In his heart, these experts were looking at him with a colorful gaze. How could he endure it anymore? He channeled his entire body's true essence and slammed his palm toward Li Lingtian. The palm print carried a powerful destructive force. You have eyes but failed to see. Your cultivation has been cultivated to a dog's body. All the powerhouses were extremely curious when they saw a Supreme Realm expert fighting a martial emperor. However, they did not expect a martial emperor expert to really dare to fight in the auction house. When they saw Wu Zun being attacked, they all had a gloating look on their faces. One was a First Heaven Supreme Realm expert, while the other was a First Heaven Martial Emperor. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. A Supreme Realm expert would definitely die. However, when they saw Li Lingtian unleashing a ball of frost flame, they were shocked beyond words. This ball of ice flame carried a destructive aura. The ice flame was the size of a fist and directly affected the palm print. Everyone knew how terrifying the icy frost flame was. If one came into contact with the icy frost flame, even a martial monarch realm expert would not be able to deal with it. Tis. In the eyes of all the experts, the icy ice flames and the palm print collided. The destructive palm print and the icy ice flames collided, and the shocking power disappeared. Shoo! There was an uproar. The ice flame continued to devour the power of the palm print, and even Nan Minghui's true essence continued to devour. With a flick of his fingers, Li Lingtian's icy frost flames turned into a dozen or so streaks that flew toward Nan Minghui like butterflies. The sheer number of icy frost flames made all the powerhouses gasp in surprise. A Supreme Realm expert could actually control the icy frost flame to such an extent. It was really too terrifying. Nan Minghui's face also revealed a shocked expression. Although it was not fatal when facing this cold ice flame, he was in such a sorry state in front of this cold ice flame. He had lost all his face. Light of the blood moon. Nan Minghui revealed a determined expression. With a wave of his hand, a blood moon appeared in front of him. The blood-red light enveloped the ice flames. Chi-chi, a series of sizzling sounds appeared in the air as the icy flame and the blood moon's light continuously collided. In the end, the ice flame returned to Li Lingtian's hand and the blood moon returned to Nan Minghui's hand. The two of them did not fight again. Li Lingtian's expression was calm as he looked at the other party with a smile. The atmosphere in the air was extremely strange. Immediately after, Nan Minghui's expression froze. He snorted coldly and turned around to leave. He walked out of the free trade venue. All the experts also felt a terrifying aura appear. Although no experts appeared, They automatically dispersed to avoid being misunderstood as a fight. Li Lingtian had nothing else to do at the moment. He led Tang Qingyue and the others to the private room. He also understood that this Nanming Hui would find trouble with him when the time came. He did not want to cause trouble in this place. Soon the group returned to the private room. Lingtian, is there any problem? Tang Qingyue asked with concern. Although Li Lingtian's strength was not bad, his opponent was a martial supreme. If he was targeted by a martial supreme, he would not be an easy opponent. It's nothing. Isn't it just a mere martial monarch realm expert? When the time comes, I really want to compete with him and see how big the difference is between a supreme realm expert and a martial monarch realm expert. Li Lingtian smiled as he caressed Tang Qingyue's hair. Although their relationship had not reached that stage, they had grown closer after the incident with the Dishi family. Back in the ancient battlefield, Shi and Huang Fuyian had been following Li Lingtian and were quite intimate with him. Be careful when the time comes. Although I've never fought a martial supreme before, the difference between a supreme realm expert and a martial supreme realm expert is too great. With your current cultivation, it's best that you don't fight a martial supreme realm expert head-on. Huang Fuyian said earnestly. She was Li Lingtian's woman and her heart and soul were with him. Naturally, she had to think for him. She still wanted Li Lingtian to become a martial god-like existence. Otherwise, her martial saint cultivation would be wasted, and she would not be able to live up to her expectations. I know. My cultivation is still too low. In the eyes of other experts, a supreme realm expert is already very powerful. However, the opponents I face are all stronger than me. I have to raise my cultivation. Li Lingtian was never careless when facing a powerful enemy. This was because in a battle between experts, a single misstep could lead to a respawn. He wasn't alone now. He had to be responsible for Tang Qingyue and the others. If anything happened to him, their safety would be at stake. Chapter 382 Limitless Holy Flame. Chapter 382 Limitless Holy Flame. After you settle the matters of the Azure Continent, you can cultivate in peace for a period of time. Huang Fuyian's face revealed a beautiful smile. However, she knew that Li Lingtian could not cultivate in peace because this was the way of the world. The higher one's cultivation base was, the stronger the opponent they would face. If Li Lingtian wanted to resolve the matter in the Tsong continent, he would definitely have to involve an even more powerful enemy. Although she hadn't been in the Azure continent for long, she knew that these super forces had their own backers. The Azure continent and the Azure continent were too small. Compared to the Divine continent and the Black continent, they were on a completely different level. She just did not want to say it out loud so that Li Lingtian would not be under too much pressure. Yes, we'll go to the House of Storms in 2 days. We'll quickly settle the matter there, and go back to Zhengzhou to cultivate for a while. Li Lingtian nodded. He had left Green Island for a few years and it was time to return. He didn't know what was going on in Green Island Sky Cloud Sect and Sky Dragon Empire. He was only concerned about his parents and Tang Ziming. He could let go of everything else. His fiancée was still the most important. With such a peerless fiancée, what else was there to be dissatisfied about? You guys keep an eye on it. If there's anything good, call me. I'm going to rest for a while. Li Lingtian gently rested his head on Huang Fuyian's slender legs. Her smooth snow-white legs were so beautiful that it made one's blood rush. There was also a faint body fragrance. Li Lingtian sniffed it gently and a faint smile appeared on his face before he closed his eyes and fell asleep. Huang Fuyian was also speechless. Her little face was red, but she was overjoyed. Next, the girls ate the spiritual fruits while chatting. They waited for the free trade to end and saw if there were any treasures left. Li Lingtian soon fell asleep. He could not stand waiting like this, so he might as well take a nap. Sleeping on a beautiful woman's snow-white and tender legs was like a fairy-like day. After an unknown period of time, Li Lingtian was woken up by a soft voice. Huang Fuyian's snow-white hand gently shook Li Lingtian's head. There really is something you like. Huang Fuyian said with a smile. Seeing her beloved man sleeping on her lap, her heart was filled with happiness. She didn't care that there were a few sisters watching by her side. What is it? Li Lingtian sat up straight as Shunmei massaged his head with her little hands to wake him up early. Limitless holy flame. Huang Fuyian was extremely excited, as she understood the importance of the infinite holy flame to Li Lingtian. To cultivate the Icefire martial soul to the Icefire Fire 9 heavens, he needed heavenly flames and heavenly ice. The limitless holy flame was the strongest flame in the world. If Li Lingtian could obtain it, he would be able to level up his Ice Fire 9th heaven. The power of ice, fire, and the 9 heavens was simply earth-shattering. It was also an existence that surpassed heaven-grade divine powers. Moreover, this Ice Fire 9th heaven was one of Li Lingtian's opportunities to advance to the martial god realm. If he could cultivate the Ice Fire 9th heaven to the extreme, he might be able to advance to the martial god realm with this. Although it was still too early to talk about it, with such a rare treasure, they definitely could not let it slip away from their eyes. What? Limitless holy flame. 1 foot, Li Lingtian's spirits were lifted. There was nothing more exciting than this. He had been searching for a long time, but he could not find a stronger heavenly flame. He did not expect to encounter the limitless holy flame here. Oh. If he could obtain the limitless holy flame, his Ice Fire 9 heavens would be able to improve. Seeing Li Lingtian's expression, the other girls were also curious. It was the first time they had seen Li Lingtian so excited. Husband, what's the use of the limitless holy flame? Shunmei looked at Li Lingtian curiously as she asked in a coquettish voice. Mei Wen'er's voice was always the most charming in front of Li Lingtian, and it was also the one that captivated him the most. The Ice Fire 9 heavens that I cultivate relies on the heavenly flame of heaven and earth, and the heavenly ice of heaven and earth. I use the fusion of the two extreme attributes to unleash the power to destroy the world. I've been looking for such ice and flames, but to no avail. I didn't expect to encounter them here. Li Lingtian said excitedly. He would not pretend or hide anything in front of his woman. He told her the key to the 9 heavens of ice and fire. After he finished speaking, he looked down seriously. The infinite holy flame is the most powerful flame in the world. It's a trump card for an expert who cultivates the fire martial soul. I don't want to waste my breath. This limitless holy flame is also the last item tonight. The starting bid is 5 billion, and the increment is 2 million. Blue River took out a crystal box that was a foot wide and floated in the air. The crystal box was covered with seals, and these seals were all very high-level ones. There were no less than 100 seals. However, the infinite sacred flame was so powerful that if it was not sealed, it would be able to destroy the experts here, let alone control them. At the very least, powerhouses below the martial supreme realm would definitely be instantly killed if they were not on guard. After saying that, he waved his hand and the crystal box landed on the steps. He looked at the experts below and waited for them to compete. The expression on Li Lingtian's face kept changing. The infinite holy flame was real, but it was the most powerful holy flame in the world. The seal needed to seal it would not be simple. First, he didn't notice it. The 100 seals looked very high level, but what really shocked him was that these seals together formed a magical seal. In other words, these seals were all connected to each other. It could be said that there was only one seal on the crystal box, a shockingly powerful seal. All the seals were just a small magic art. More than 100 seals formed a powerful seal. Otherwise, it would not be able to seal the limitless holy flame. At that time, even if someone else took it, the seal might not be able to be broken. Even he could not break the limitless holy flame so easily. 5. 1 billion low-grade spirit stones. 5. 2 billion low-grade spirit stones. 5. 3 billion low-grade spirit stones. 5. 4 billion low-grade spirit stones. While he was examining the seal, the competition below had already become intense. Huang Fuyian and the others were waiting for Li Lingtian to compete. No matter how strong a girl's cultivation was, when she had a man to rely on, She would not have a decision and her mind would not be mature. The girls were all anxious. They did not look like martial artists at all. If you guys compete, you must get this infinite sacred flame. Li Lingtian had a faint smile on his face as he looked at Huang Fuyuyan. His evil gaze landed on Huang Fuyuyan's chest, which was heaving up and down with his heartbeat. Look where. Huang Fuyuyan noticed Li Lingtian's gaze and grunted. She did not expect Li Lingtian to stare at her mysterious chest in front of so many sisters. Her little face flushed red. Kiki kiki. Hee. Sister Yuyan, he's already touched it countless times. Are you still afraid of looking? I don't believe that he hasn't seen it before. Yes, I am. Hee. Li Lingtian did not answer immediately. Shun Mei, Qingling, Tang Qingyue and the others laughed. Huang Fuyuyan wished she could find a hole to hide in. She didn't expect her sisters to be like this. It would have been better if he had said that from the side. However, Li Lingtian was the main culprit here. How could he still have the face to say something like that? Don't you want to compete? When Li Lingtian saw Huang Fuyuyan's flushed face, he reached out and pulled her into his arms. With a stern expression, he looked at Tang Qingyue and the others. Huang Fuyuyan took the opportunity to hide in Li Lingtian's arms. She buried her head in Li Lingtian's chest and dared not look at Tang Qingyue and the others. Tang Qingyue and the others held back their laughter, lest Huang Fuyuyan became too shy. 20 billion low-grade spirit stones. Qingling was the last to raise the bid. She also raised the bid casually, but this casually made the experts below stunned. Oh. This was because the people in this private room had used spirit stone experts to crush them previously. Now they were competing again. 22 billion. 23 billion. 24 billion. Oh. The few 9th level Supreme Realm experts and 3 Martial Monarch Realm experts below seemed to be driven by the competition in the private room. Every time they increased the bid, it would increase by 1 billion. It seemed that they were determined to get this limitless holy flame. They all knew how powerful the infinite sacred flame was. It was even more terrifying than a peerless saint weapon. If they could control it, not only could they increase their cultivation, but they could also upgrade the sacred flame. The power of their attacks would also be extremely magical. 40 billion. Shun Mei-er's face was filled with excitement as she raised the bid. After raising the bid, she spoke to Li Lingtian. Husband, can you promise me something? She looked at Li Lingtian with a seductive gaze. Her little face was pure and innocent, and her appearance was extremely adorable. Li Lingtian's heart trembled. Shun Mei-er was already his woman, but Mei Wen-er always gave him a feeling of endless love. What is it? Li Lingtian asked in confusion. With their relationship, was there a need to beg? Tang Qingyue and the others were also looking at Shun Mei-er curiously. They had been spending time together during this period of time and were very casual. They didn't know what was going on with Shun Mei Wen-er. When the time comes, the spirit stones auctioned off by the infinite sacred flame. Husband, don't give it to me. Mei-er, give me the spirit stones. Mei-er wants to buy this limitless holy flame for you. After Shun Mei-er finished speaking, she pouted her rosy lips and looked at Li Lingtian with watery eyes. Sure. Li Lingtian readily agreed. With a loving expression, he looked at Shun Mei-er gently. The girls looked at Li Lingtian. Based on Li Lingtian's personality, he would never ask a girl to fork out spiritual stones. However, since he agreed so readily, they knew that Li Lingtian did not care about spiritual stones at all. Even if the infinite sacred flame were to be bought with hundreds of billions of spirit stones, he wouldn't even frown. He didn't think that Shun Mei-er had gotten a bargain, but rather he felt embarrassed. But this time he was so straightforward, just to make Shun Mei-er happy. Shun Mei-er's people were all his, not to mention the spirit stones. The girls were overjoyed. Li Lingtian was so straightforward, and did not show any chauvinism in front of them. They were all intelligent geniuses and naturally knew Li Lingtian's intentions. Thank you, husband. Shun Mei-er was overjoyed and her face was filled with excitement as she looked at Li Lingtian tenderly. Chapter 383 Chapter 383 Terrifying Price 1. Chapter 383 Terrifying Price 1. 40 billion. Sigh, it's close again this time. Yeah, if they join in, the chances of them competing are not high. It doesn't matter. We used tens of billions last time. We definitely can't compete with us now. Yes, let's compete. Perhaps they are already at the end of their assault. Shocked. The bidding in the private room was shocking. Apart from being shocked, the few super experts began to discuss. This limitless holy flame was too tempting. It was also a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for experts. Naturally, they would not give it up so easily. Seeing such an infinite sacred flame, he would use other methods to get it, let alone spirit stones. 45 billion. 46 billion. 1 foot, 60 billion. Just as the 29th heaven revered martial artists increased the price, another increase came from the private room. It was also an even number, raising the price of the spirit stones to 60 billion again. Hush, there was an uproar. 60 billion. The experts present were all experts sent by their families or sections. Moreover, they had gathered the wealth of a family or sect in order to obtain the treasures here. However, even if a family or sect gathered their wealth, it would only be a few billion or tens of billions. There were not many people here who had tens of billions of wealth. He did not expect another 60 billion to appear, and they were all private rooms on the second floor. He had bought one last time for 60 billion, and now there was another 60 billion. What a big deal. This is the last time. I bid 61 billion. A 9th level Supreme Realm expert sighed. This was also his limit. Although he knew that he would not be able to obtain this limitless holy flame by increasing his cultivation by 1 billion, he still held on to the last trace of hope. A man with money was a man. A man without money would also have a hard time. Even a super Supreme Realm expert was the same. I bid 63 billion. My limit is 65 billion. 70 billion. 100 billion. 2 of the 3 Martial Monarch Realm experts called out the final price. Only 1 Martial Monarch Realm expert called out the price of 70 billion. It looked like he still wanted to compete, but after he shouted 70 billion, the voice of 100 billion came from the private room. The voice was extremely sweet, like the sound of nature. However, this voice was shocking at this moment, like thunder striking all the experts. 100 billion. 100 billion. Oh my God, this is the highest price in the auction house. 100 billion to buy the limitless holy flame. This is too terrifying. Everyone was shocked. At this moment, the martial emperors and martial supremes here no longer looked like experts. Their faces were filled with shock. Moreover, countless experts' mouths were wide open, and they looked like they could not believe it. Only after a long time did they exclaim in surprise. Such a price had completely exceeded their imaginations. 100 billion. Even the 10 great clans of the Azure continent might not be able to fork out so many spiritual stones. What was the background of this private room on the second floor? It actually offered 100 billion, which was equivalent to the entire property of one of the 10 great families of the Azure continent. The 3 Martial Monarch Realm experts were also numb. Their faces were ashen. A Martial Monarch Realm expert had actually been defeated by a spiritual stone. However, the 3 Martial Emperor powerhouses glanced at the private room coldly. 100 billion, anyone else? Blue River was also stunned by this price. He had hosted auctions for over 100 years, but he had never seen such a large amount of money. Moreover, using spirit stones to suppress experts in such a domineering manner was domineering. Oh. However, as the host of the auction, he quickly reacted and shouted at the experts in the auction hall. He also knew that it was impossible for anyone to raise the price, but this was a rule. He had to ask once. 100 billion low-grade spirit stones going twice. 100 billion low-grade spirit stones going thrice. After the third shout, the hammer struck down. There was no sound at all. The infinite holy flame was sold for 100 billion low-grade spirit stones. Blue River had the maids bring the crystal box to the private room on the second floor. All the experts were curious and excited. Even if they didn't get any treasures, they saw the power of using spirit stones to suppress experts. It was an eye-opener. The expressions of the three martial emperor powerhouses were extremely ugly. A dignified martial emperor powerhouse had actually been defeated by a spiritual stone. Li Lingtian and the rest waited in the private room. After a knock on the door, the maid respectfully presented the crystal box. Shun Mei smiled happily as she took the crystal box. "Husband, Mayor gave this to you." Shun Mei placed the crystal box in front of Li Lingtian and planted a kiss on his cheek. Pow! Li Lingtian took the crystal box and felt the warm lips on his face. His heart skipped a beat. This little girl really liked to do such things. He turned around and gently kissed Shun Mei's rosy lips. Shun Mei's face flushed red, but her heart was filled with happiness. Next, Shun Mei opened her storage pouch and took out all the spirit stones. It was exactly 100 billion. This storage pouch was also the last thing that Her Highness Shun Yu had given her. She did not expect her to take out all the spirit stones. The final bit of 100 billion was also called out by Shun Mei. Originally, 80 billion would have been enough, but she had called out 100 billion so that she could use all her assets on the infinite holy flame to show that she belonged to Li Lingtian wholeheartedly. Li Lingtian naturally understood what Shun Mei meant. Even though he had wasted 20 billion spiritual stones, he had received a silent confession from her. After the maid left, Blue River counted the spirit stones and then announced the end of the auction. "Everyone, this auction has come to a perfect end. Welcome back, everyone." Blue River cast a spell. The stone door that they came in from opened. All the experts left the auction hall in order. Li Lingtian and the others watched as everyone left the auction house before they slowly walked out. As he left the auction house, three powerful divine consciousness locked onto Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian appeared nonchalant and completely ignored the three powerful divine consciousness. "It's so late. Yeah, I went back to rest. Today was so fun." Tang Qingyue and the others chattered as they followed Li Lingtian to the inn. They soon returned to the inn. However, the three powerful divine senses were locked onto Li Lingtian. Fighting was forbidden in Blue Lake City, so naturally, no powerhouse dared to make a move in the city. Li Lingtian was certain of this point before he left the auction house in peace. If he was outside, he would have to be more careful. After returning to the inn, the girls returned to their rooms. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.